In 3, 2, 1.
This is Doug Plank, former Chicago Bear. You're listening to Brags in the Stands.
And I go back to practice where he's at, but we'll see. We'll see where we're at here as we go and move forward with where our guys are at. But I felt overall that
got better.
I feel again. I go back to practice.
I just want
where
you
he's
to
at.
keep doing that.
We'll see. We'll see where we're at here as we go and move forward.
Last week,
Where our guys are at. But I felt overall that we were other guys below. I just want to see where we're at here as we go and move forward.
He wasn't what?
No, I felt overall
We move forward with what we talked about, but at the same time, feeling really good about where we're at.
You can't do this right here, right, with those two. Those two guys now, they got to be going this way. One might be here and one might be there, but they're never doing this. And I think that's, if you just keep it super simple, that's where we're at in our room right now. That's where we're at with our.
What the hell just happened?
The Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way.
Bottle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean. It's like their own Philly. Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
What a great sign that is. What have I told you? 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought.
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Yes, great practice, everybody.
You are ridiculous.
Please sit Andy down, 'cause we wanna see Justin Fields, the real deal. There is nothing to think about. Give Justin Fields the leather. This guy is giving us all hope, 'cause Andy Dalton ain't the key. Let's give a chance to number one and he'll work it out. We want to see some victories. So let's change that frown, 'cause we're praying for more Justin Fields, the real deal, and someone to get up about. Give Justin Fields the leather. See Justin Fields get better. Justin Fields forever.
Justin Fields forever. Compliments of our guy Al Fleischman doing a nice little parody song. This is Braggs in the Stands. I am your host, Gregory Braggs Jr. And of course, this is my co-host, diehard Chiefs fan, tennis pro, gambling aficionado, and duck race connoisseur, Johnny B. How we doing today?
I am doing fantastic, and good news for the show. I just got my voice back kind of like 2 days ago after Sunday.
Man, you guys,
capacity, baby.
I'll tell you what, you can't keep the Chiefs down for long. You know, it seemed like they were going to lose that game to the Browns, and, Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, they never disappoint, always come ready to play, and come back and get a great week one win. That's 2 years in a row now. The Browns have given you guys a good game, but seems like anybody, whether it be the Ravens, the Browns, who else is on this list?
Well, to be honest with you, there's nobody on the list for me. Winners win, and that's the bottom line. I wasn't worried. Everybody was tripping out in the stands, and I was like, second half adjustments for the defense. We had 3 starters out, and then Mahomes magic. It's all you need to know. Lamar Jackson hasn't beaten Mahomes. Neither has Baker Mayfield, and neither has Josh Allen. So what are we even talking about here?
Well, and what we're talking about today is a lot of NFL football here coming up, week 2 action tomorrow. Johnny B will be giving his picks out here later in the show, so stay tuned for that. But of course, this is a Chicago Bears show. You know, every day is Fields Day at Braggs in the Stands, and we're going to be talking a lot of Justin Fields, a lot of Chicago Bears here coming up. Sorry for the long intro, Big Dollar Dave. You got to sit through that every single time. Thank you very much. Very proud of our intro, and compliments to Bears Reddit for that Nagy, compilation of all of his different pressers where he's literally said the exact same thing 900 times in a row. Can get kind of nauseating, as Pat Blake put in the chat. It's salad talk for Mr. Matt Nagy, but we're kind of numb to it at this point. But coming up in just a few short moments, our guy from 670 The Score, a good friend of mine here, Danny Parkins from the Parkins and Spiegel show, does a great job, is going to come on and talk a little Bears and really focus in on the Justin Fields thing. We can talk about how good David Montgomery looked. We can talk about how suspect the defense looked week 1. You know, we can talk about all that stuff, but we will get into that as the show goes on. But I really want to focus in on what's going on with Justin Fields when Danny Parkins comes on, because me and Danny certainly had a meeting of the minds in regards to how we're approaching looking at this. And we've had discussions on this show, and Johnny and, of course, my guy Chubbs in the chat have shot back at this. And, I'm not trying to throw you off on the early start time, Chubbs, but, I am going to throw you off by bringing on Danny Parkins because, like I said, we've kind of had a little bit of a meeting of the minds in regards to how we're looking at these early games. Because for me, I want the Bears to make the playoffs. I know a lot of people think that the Bears have no shot at making the playoffs. They're not a talented enough team. I want to see it with Justin Fields as the quarterback. To me, every game that's started by Andy Dalton is A, waste of time in regards to the development of a Justin Fields, but B, also, making the margin of error smaller and smaller for this season. And to me, if, obviously it goes against every fiber of a Bears fan's feeling to say, I want the Bears to lose tomorrow. But at the same time, if they were to lose, and as I put, and you'll see it in the Midway Minute tomorrow, and I'll tease it here on the show for you loyal listeners, it's a win-win to me tomorrow. If they win, great. Enjoy it, celebrate, depending on what the context of how they won it, fine. But if they lose, it's going to be Fields Day next week at Cleveland, the team you just beat. And to me, that's an opportunity for Bears fans to get 15 weeks, the most amount of weeks they were ever going to get with Justin Fields, because everyone's pegged week 4 against the Detroit Lions as the perfect start time. But to me, the earlier the start time, the better. If he announced tomorrow, I'm starting Justin Fields, I woke up in the morning and Fields is our starter from week 2 on, that's the best case scenario for the Chicago Bears. So it's hard for me to get past anything but thinking about how many games total maximum Justin Fields can start. And to me, like I said, Danny Parkins said, I'm rooting against the Bears every week until they put Justin Fields in. And that fired a lot of Bears fans up. I didn't go as far to say that, but I certainly am not. I understand where he's coming from, because I did say if the scenario plays out that they go 0-2, I will, and that forces Matt Nagy's hand to play Justin Fields. I'm not going to be upset about it. I know Bears fans are going to say win no matter what, but sometimes that can muddy the waters. When Mike Glennon won in week 2 in 2017, that extended his leash into playing till week 4. Had he maybe lost in overtime to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2017, and I know we're going back to the Trubisky day. Nobody wants to think about that stuff, but it's a similar situation, and it's almost worse in that Justin Fields is a more talented quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. And I know I'm rambling, Johnny B, but these are the initial thoughts I have coming out, and this is what we're going to talk about with Danny Parkins here today.
Well, I came on this show obviously many times after the move was made to take Justin Fields. And for me, obviously, I've been a Justin Fields from day one type of guy right away. And obviously a promise had to be made to Andy Dalton when they signed him. And that's the only way I can think of that this is not happening. Obviously, everybody in Bears division, they all lost. So everybody's at 0-1. So why not put Justin in there? Whether you make the playoffs or whether you don't, that remains to be seen. But if the division's going to be a little down, if Aaron Rodgers, and that remains to be seen, is a little disinterested, and we'll see how that goes. Why not put him in there, get him in a division race and see what he can do? Obviously Andy Dalton didn't get killed like everybody thought against the Rams defense. He survived, and he's walking around today like no big deal. It's not going to get much easier, to be honest, versus that Cleveland pass rush with Clowney and Garrett. So let's go. Put the kid in. Let's see what he can do and go from there. I mean, you're got to develop a quarterback. You want a superstar? I mean, the Bears need to do it ASAP.
And you see Carmen Casino echoing the sentiments of maybe a me and a Danny Parkins. Wants the chaos, lose big. I mean, if they get smoke showed like they did on Sunday Night Football against the Rams, he will have no choice but to play Justin Fields. That's not a bad scenario for Bears fans, because that might be the only card they have left to play to rejuvenate this team to be competitive this season. I'm not giving up on this season. So for those of you fans that, think this is just a developmental year, great. I just want to see, I want to see our kid out there and see what chances we have with that. You're seeing a guy like Kyler Murray, who played all of last season. Look how much he's taking off this year. Think if they had waited to play Kyler Murray until week 10, would he be ascending the way he did week 1, dicing up the Tennessee Titans, And yeah, Pat Blake makes the point, $10 million and a promise made to Andy Dalton. I understand that. I completely understand that. They're sitting at the table. They don't know they're going to get a quarterback at that time when they sign him. And you don't want to lie to your free agents when they come in at the table. But at the same time, you have to be a professional and you have to be honest with these guys. And if he isn't going to give you the best chance to win, and you see that in the preseason and training camp, and you have to go back on your word, then you man up and you tell him that, because all you're doing now is you're screwing the team and you're screwing yourselves by putting Andy Dalton out there, and he gets to be so terrible that now his trade value is going down. Maybe if you were just honest up front and played Justin Fields to start the season, Andy Dalton sitting on the bench, and maybe a team like the Redskins right now are like, maybe we'll take Andy Dalton off your hands because we need a quarterback right now. And I know Taylor Henneke ended up looking really good, but I'm just throwing out any team that could lose a quarterback because that happens week to week in the NFL. But Andy Dalton stock continues to drop at every game you put him out there. Maybe that'll change tomorrow against the Bengals. We don't know. But, the Bengals pass rush certainly looked good against the Vikings a week ago. And, it's going to be interesting to see how the Bears manage that tomorrow.
I like that Kyler Murray comparison because, last year, Kyler coming in at times, especially beginning of the season, he looked really, really good. And I thought maybe he'd taken that full leap. And then as the season kind of went on and he got a little banged up, you could see that his experience wasn't there at the time and they didn't get into the playoffs. But you know what? That's going to probably be very valuable for this year. He got into that, very close on the edge of making the playoffs and they didn't quite get there. And he had left some plays on the field, but now he seems like he learned a lot. He's rejuvenated. And obviously he went out there on the road and just shredded the Tennessee Titans, who a lot of people thought, would be contender for the AFC. And obviously it's still early, but you could just see a little development, from last year to this year for Kyler. And if you don't play Justin Fields, you're not going to get any kind of development. You're just not going to get it.
1,000%, Johnny B. I echo these sentiments. And, like I said earlier, some of the sentiments I've been echoing here lately have been coming from our guy that's joining the show right now, Danny Parkins from 670 The Score, the Parkins and Spiegel Show, always working hard, always entertaining the masses here in Chicago, the greatest city in the world. How we doing today, Danny?
I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
Well, we appreciate you coming on, and you got a kid to put to bed here in a little bit, so I don't want to take up too much of your time on a Saturday. College football Saturday. Notre Dame just got done with a victory over Purdue, drum or no drum, but I appreciate you coming on, Danny, because I just really felt like between me and you, we're fighting an uphill battle against Bears Nation this week, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about it because now we know they got whooped against the Rams, and now they're entering this game against the Bengals, and you pretty profoundly stated once they said Andy Dalton was going to be the starter that you were rooting against the Bears, so to speak, every week until Andy Dalton is no longer the starter. And I understand the sentiment because I went through the exact same thing with Mike Glennon and had a lot of pushback. And to me, this is the exact same situation, but worse when you consider how much of a better talent Justin Fields is in comparison to Mitch Trubisky. It's not even close to me. So, now tomorrow is game day, Bears versus Bengals. Is it a fear that Andy Dalton's going to go off, or do you feel like you pretty much know it's going to be the exact same scenario that played out last Sunday against the Rams?
No, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the same scenario. I think that, the Rams were the best defense in the NFL last year, and they were the number one defense in the NFL at limiting big plays. So, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, the Bears offense and Andy Dalton was actually a little bit better than I expected. I mean, they moved it across the 50-yard line on 6 different possessions, a couple of touchdowns, got some stuff going on the ground. It was painful to watch because there was no verticality. They didn't take any shots. They were very conservative even when they were down multiple scores in the second half. So I'm not saying it was a good offensive performance, but I've seen them be worse against worse defenses, and I've seen them be worse against the Rams. So I think that it's very reasonable to expect that Andy Dalton and the Bears offense is going to move the ball a little bit against Cincinnati. And the question will be if they can put up, touchdowns instead of field goals, because I think Joe Burrow will be able to move the ball against the Bears defense. It's what's frustrating is we don't know what the leash is. Like we don't know what it's going to take for Matt Nagy to make the switch. They kept saying that the plan was to win with Andy Dalton while they watched Justin Fields dominate on the practice field. But then they played him 5 snaps and they said they wanted to play him more. And they keep hinting at that they might be playing him even more in this game. So that means that it's not about watching him dominate on the practice field, that they think that part of the recipe to win with Andy Dalton is also to win with Justin Fields. And so, I mean, if he takes 10 to 15 offensive snaps in this game, they're basically running a college offense. They're running a 2 QB system. And I would think that if Justin Fields is good enough to run 10, 15 plays, he's good enough to be the starting quarterback in the game. So I just find it to be inconsistent and frustrating. And I do think the big fear now is what happens if the Bears come out and score 27 points and win predominantly behind Andy Dalton? How far does that delay Justin Fields? Because, you know, if they really are adamant about not starting Justin Fields until, you know, they're eliminated from playoff contention, that just seems like a fool's mission to me.
I agree. And that was the fear I had back in the Mike Glennon days. You have a quarterback that's only good enough to maybe get you to 500. You win one, you lose one. You win one, you lose one. And that, to me, if that's what ends up being the end result, which is what I'm assuming, and I know I'm, you know, jumping ahead to assume that, but it's right there in front of me to assume he's an average quarterback on an average team around him. So to me, it's just a waste of development if we get all the way to week 8 and they're 4-4. You know, and the thing that's really stood out this week, Danny, is how outspoken some of the players and the coaches have been. And I know we've seen this clip a few times, but I want to play it for our listeners and get the reaction from you on in regards to does Matt Nagy have a chance to lose the locker room if he doesn't play his cards right? And here are the comments from Marquise Goodwin.
I can't remember how much you actually saw him, but Jalen Ramsey is obviously a unique player. What kind of special challenges does he present?
As you mentioned, he's a unique player, all-pro, Pro Bowler, instinctive, like especially in short spaces, and you know, us not running past 10 yards, that you know, fell right into his hand, I feel like. But yeah, you know,
All right, so now when you have
there it is, you know, not throwing past 10 yards. You know, you mentioned that the offense looked better than maybe you anticipated, you know, but I would push back and say, you know, what they were getting done on the field outside of David Montgomery's relentless running was things the Rams were allowing. They were just allowing them to throw in front of them. So to me, you know, getting 26 completions, getting a bunch of first downs, holding the time of possession doesn't amount to a hill of beans if you're not executing downfield or through the teeth of the defense in the red zone. And that's kind of what Marquise Goodwin is speaking to there. We played right into their hands. And it's because Andy Dalton is limited as a quarterback. Do you think that this locker room, when you hear David Montgomery, when you hear Marquise Goodwin, when you hear some of the coaches speak so highly of Justin Fields, almost kind of throwing their head coach under the bus, when you understand how much smoke he's under right now, do you think there's any chance, if we do go through another tough game tomorrow, that this locker room is going to start to divide in the way we saw Mark Trestman's locker room divide, you know, back in 2014 or whatever it was?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly possible, but I don't think that Matt Nagy is going to lose a bunch of games and then not play Justin Fields. Like, I don't think he's doing a great job, but I don't think he's as dumb as the majority of Bears fans think he is. Like, he is the guy who drafted Justin Fields. He's the guy who has a relationship with Ryan Day. Like, this is his pick more than it is Ryan Pace's pick. So if Justin Fields looks good, it's a positive for Matt Nagy, who, let's be honest, and I know Bears fans don't want to hear this, like, he has a winning record through 3 seasons. He's been to the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. He's never had a losing record, and he's had bottom 5 quarterback production in that tenure. So if Justin Fields is Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, like, if he's real, and then Matt Nagy drafted him, Matt Nagy's going to be here a while. Like, if he plays him and wins with him, or at least shows out, right? Like, if the Bears win 6 or 7 games, but Justin Fields looks awesome playing the majority of the games, say more than half the season, I think Matt Nagy's back, personally. I know a lot of people disagree with that. So I don't think he's going to be, especially given what we saw in week 1 and that he said he wanted to play him more, I don't think it's going to be that long until we see Justin Fields if the Bears are losing. So when guys get asked about Justin Fields and they compliment him and they say he's special and there's a spark and it looks good in the huddle and all that stuff, they're just complimenting the future of the franchise.
Sure.
You know, I don't necessarily look at that as bus tossing Matt Nagy. Now, we played into their hands and we threw the ball less than 10 yards every time. That's obviously not a good reflection of the coach.
And they have to understand the pressure he's under, though, too. That's where I kind of feel like it is, because we all are reading these headlines and Twitter, the tweeters out there,
Well, time of
but I mean, the McCaskies have not said that he's in trouble.
Right. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's all that matters. They allowed him to trade a first-round pick to move up to take his quarterback. So I don't think it's a given that Matt Nagy is fired at the end of the year. And the fact that he was listed as like the odds-on favorite to be the first head coach fired is laughable. They've never fired a coach mid-season. Like that does not happen. Matt Nagy is getting the year. So I think that there is, while it's really frustrating, and like you mentioned, Braggs, like I've been at the front of the line of demanding that they give this kid a real chance to win the job and play him immediately. I don't agree with the majority opinion that like Matt Nagy is a loss or two away from being fired or having a mutiny on his hands, because I think that Matt Nagy's a loss or two away from starting Justin Fields. Like, I don't think this is going to be, if they're losing. Now, if they win, that's when it gets complicated, which is hence why, as you mentioned at the beginning, I'm just rooting for them to lose, because I think that makes it easier on everybody. Like if they lose to Cincinnati, there's going to be a lot of heat, and then they get blown out by Cleveland. You're 0-3, your season's over. Play Justin Fields against the Lions, and you get 14 games to evaluate the rookie, and you get to evaluate Matt Nagy with the rookie. Like to me, I'd sign on the dotted line for that right now. And I know Bears fans don't want to hear it, but I'm not interested in 9-8, 10-7, first round playoff loss, Andy Dalton as the starter.
No, if it was with Justin Fields, I'd sign up for that because he gets experience. Dalton, that's a waste of time.
If listen, I'd sign up for any outcome with Justin Fields.
Exactly.
As long, I mean, obviously as long as he's healthy and good. I keep using the Chargers on the show. To me, the Chargers are the perfect example. They brought Tyrod Taylor, did not have tenure with the organization, just like Andy Dalton did not have tenure with the organization. They drafted Herbert 6, Bears drafted Fields 11th, but they weren't, the first quarterback taken. Herbert was the third quarterback off the board. They played Tyrod Taylor. They won with Tyrod Taylor in the first game. Then the doctor collapsed his lung. They had to play Herbert in an emergency, and Herbert plays every game the rest of the way. They only win 6 of them, right? They finish 7-9. Herbert wins 6 games, but he throws for 31 touchdowns and is the offensive rookie of the year.
And 4,000 yards.
Those games were close too. A lot of those games were very close. Valuable experience.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it wasn't for a Joey Bosa injury, a Derwin James injury, Anthony Lynn being incompetent with game management, like maybe he has them in the playoffs as an AFC wildcard last year. But the point was that to me, if I'm a Chargers fan, it did not matter at all that they missed the playoffs and Herbert only won 6 games, because the dude threw for 31 touchdowns and was offensive rookie of the year. And they learned what they needed.
Right.
They went out and they signed Corey Linsley, the #1 center in free agency. And then they used the first-round pick on Rashawn Slater, the tackle from Northwestern. Like they learned what they needed to support their rookie quarterback going into year 2 of 5 years of the rookie contract window. And now the Chargers are, it's a very tough division. Obviously, they have to go through Kansas City. It's a first-time head coach. We'll see if they stay healthy. There's no guarantee, but at least the Chargers used his rookie season to figure out what the hell they had in Justin Herbert. To me, that's a success. If at the end of this year, the Bears know that they're going to want to give a second contract to Justin Fields, the year was a success.
Right.
And the Chargers could have easily pulled the plug on that, because he came out, his first start was against the Chiefs. Obviously, it was a little bit different. It was week 2. Like you said, they collapsed Tyrod's lung with the injection. And we had no idea that he was going to start. There was no fans in the stands, whatever. But, that game was close. The defense played good for the Chargers. And they could have easily said, you know what, he looked okay against the Chiefs that first game. We're going to go back to Tyrod. But they didn't do that. They saw enough to start him the next week. and then just keep going the rest of the season with it. And obviously, they got the 31 touchdowns and the offensive, AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year, all that stuff. They could have easily went away from it. But obviously, once that thing happened to Tyrod, they saw enough to just keep going with it, and then they committed to it, and then they made a plan, for the season, and then the offseason trying to get him some protection, and they're getting some players back on defense, like you said. So it was a plan that maybe got pushed a little bit, but then they stuck with it. They didn't just abandon it, which they could have easily done.
Completely.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm rooting for here. And I know it's not like the easiest cognitive thing for Bears fans to wrap their minds around, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't expect the majority of Chicago to be like actively rooting for the Bengals. Like, mine, it's more of an intellectual point. Like, it's more of.
Tell that to Chubbs in the chat, because he gives me a lot of crap for this, because I'm right there with you. It equals, my mind says the same, like you said, intellectual. It means more games with Justin Fields, which equals a better chance for the Bears to win the last 15 weeks of the season if he goes in next week. And I don't understand why Bears fans can't get around to that point.
That's the other thing. It's not only that I think it's in their best interest long term, and that I think it's in Justin Fields' best interest long term. Their defense is not good enough to win dinking and dunking and trying to eke out 17-14 wins with Andy Dalton. It's just not. They need. I honestly believe it's in their best interest short term to play Justin Fields over Andy Dalton. Like, I'm crazy like this. I believe that Justin Fields is better than Andy Dalton. I guess that like
crazy thought you got there, Danny.
Yeah, I know.
Put you in the insane asylum for that one.
Yeah, it's a completely revolutionary thought. I know. But like, people are like, "Oh, all that matters is the game in front of you." Like, okay, A, I disagree, but B, do you really think they've got a better shot at beating Cincinnati with Justin Fields or Andy Dalton? I think it's Justin Fields.
Yeah, and there's been a few beat writers to suggest, and I know you kind of alluded that they look better than you thought, but no offense to Dan Weeder here, but he called, I got to call him out on it. He called the offense sharp. 200 yards passing, 1 interception, 0 touchdowns. That's not sharp,
Yeah, it was, like I said, it wasn't good. It just, we've seen them have games with 6 3-and-outs.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
This is a low bar we have in Chicago.
100%. 100%. But that's all I'm saying. It's not good. It was just better than I expected. And again, a lot of this is opponent. The Rams are awesome.
Yes.
They're awesome. They're an awesome football team. But I don't know, man. I think that tomorrow will be very interesting, right? I think tomorrow could be a pretty high-scoring game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm probably with you there. I picked the Bears to win, but it's 50. It's a coin flip. Let me ask you this, and we have a few more moments with you before we cut you loose and let you get to your family and your weekend here, and I'll let Johnny B fire a question away after I get this one in. But you mentioned the Bears alluding to a few more snaps this week. I correctly predicted a few weeks ago that they were going to give him snaps last week. I could just sense it in the pressure he was getting from the fans and the media. Rightfully so. It's not like he was dictating it from what the fans and the media were saying. They were saying it because of how good he looked. Matt Nagy knows this. So he has to kind of intertwine his original plan with a new, an audible, so to speak, if we're going to use a football term, and let him get a few snaps that he rightfully earned. To me, now that he scores a touchdown, he looks like he belongs, as Bill Lazor alluded to in the press conference. Now I think he needs to take the next step in this slow process that Matt Nagy's pushing along as his plan. And do you believe that Justin Fields should get a few series, if not one series, maybe one series in each half, where he doesn't just come in for one play, but he gets an entire series, whether it's a 3-and-out or he marches them all the way down the field, to understand not just one play and getting the call out, motioning the receiver, but then to, progress down the field and understand how to play at the NFL level that way?
I would love it, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, that's upsetting.
I think it'd be great. They named Andy Dalton the captain for this game. So I'd be a little surprised if it just took 1 week for Justin Fields to play one series per half. I hope it happens, like I said, but I think you're going to see Justin Fields get 8 to 10 snaps, take a deep shot, like maybe a little bit more conventional play calling as opposed to some more gimmicky stuff. But I think that this is still going to be Andy Dalton's game, for better or for worse. And, the Browns, I think this really begins in week 4. I think it's right. That's when the first time it's absolutely in play that he starts for the Bears and is playing series and series and series. Now, obviously things can happen. I would have played him for series at the end of the game. When you're down, 2-3 scores in the fourth quarter, play Justin Fields, right? Play the rookie. The Packers played Jordan Love. Now they were down, 5 scores. But to me, that's you should be looking for every opportunity to get him reps. Boomer Esiason came on the show and said it's all about protection. It's about safety. You don't want him missing a coverage and missing a protection more accurately while he's reading the coverage and getting blown up. Olin Kreutz said he's such a good athlete that's what his legs are for, that'll be mobile enough to protect himself out there. Those are obviously two brilliant football minds. I don't know that he's completely ready to protect himself. I'd like to think that he is, given his intelligence and his experience level, but I would bet against him getting serious. Bet Rivers set the number for me at 11.5 snaps in the game. And
thank you for that, because the fact that they didn't have Justin Fields as an anytime scorer in week 1, and Johnny B here to my right, or my loyal co-host here, he's our gambling, aficionado to the show. Thank you for forcing their hand to put that, as an option for bettors, because it was crazy to me that it wasn't on the table week 1.
Yeah, I agree. I can get any of those bets out there. So if they don't have it again, I can make it happen. But
you got the strings.
I think the snaps thing is just interesting. I think it's kind of fun. So yeah, they set it at 11.5 for the Bengals game.
So Johnny, do you got anything here before we cut Danny loose?
Obviously, I've as I said earlier in the show, have been Justin from day one for the Bears, and obviously the promise was made to the Red Rifle, whatever you want to call him, Andy Dalton, but he got his start. He started the season, and now he's going against his former team, the Bengals, who obviously cut him loose, and they didn't think he was good enough to sign him. They took Burrow, and then he went on his way to Dallas, and now he's here in Chicago. So for me, week 4. That's a long way away for Bears fans. I know they want to see it. They want to see a little bit more. They got a taste in the preseason. They got the touchdown last week on the goal line. If Andy Dalton doesn't do anything against his other team, I think that the leash gets shorter. Maybe he gets in more snaps. Maybe it's over 11.5 snaps against Cleveland. But do you think that if he doesn't get it done, or at least show well more than dink and dunk, which time means nothing when you're behind to me. I mean, what is, you're not good enough, like you said, to win 17-14 every week. Do you think if he does not have a good showing and put up some numbers, that they could go to Justin against the Browns and not wait till week 4?
Yeah, I think it's in play. I mean, let's also put this out there. Tomorrow at Soldier Field could be very uncomfortable. And these guys are professionals. They've been booed before. I'm not suggesting that the fans could tilt things here, but it's absolutely in play that the sequence goes like this. Bears win the coin toss, defer to the second half. Bengals receive. Bengals drive down the field, score a touchdown, 7-0. Andy Dalton comes on the field, goes 3 and out. Boo. It's I think 1 3 and out or 1 turnover for Andy Dalton is when the "we want Justin" chants start and when the boos start. So, and Matt Nagy alluded to it. There were "we want Justin" chants in LA from Bears fans. So
they were in
it
the
already
preseason
happened.
as well.
Right. It already happened at Soldier Field in the preseason. So, like, if they don't move the ball on the first drive, I think that's all it's going to take for the temperature to rise at Soldier Field and for it to be, like, discussed on the broadcast, palpable in the stadium, tense. Like, who knows what type of impact that has on Andy Dalton, the whole thing. So anything is possible, whether it's week 3, week 4, Andy Dalton wins a couple of games and it's delayed until later in the season. Like, I'm not sitting here telling you, like, I know what's going to happen, but I do know this. If they come out with a deficit and looking bad early, it's going to be very uncomfortable for Matt Nagy and Andy Dalton on Sunday.
Certainly will. I'm going to be on hand. My guy here, Michael Hayes from the Collector's Cave, is going to be there as well. And I agree. The Boo Birds are going to be ready if they don't score out the gate. First drive out the gate, it could get very ugly. And that's sad to think when you consider that this is the first regular season game at Soldier Field in almost 2 years, the last one being against Johnny B's Kansas City Chiefs when Mahomes is counting to 10. And, now we have our guy and we're still sitting on our hands waiting for it. I mean, I guess there's a light at the end of the tunnel. At the end of the day, that's a good thing. But, it's still frustrating nonetheless for every Bears fan that wants to come at you or me that say, hey, I want to win right now. I'm a Bears fan. We all want that. It's just a matter of how we want to go about that. And I appreciated you, maybe saying the unpopular thing this week. That's something maybe the fans don't want to hear. But at the end of the day, what you said, while some may not agree with it, it has logic to it. And it's reasonable. And for fans to come at you, I thought was silly. I had the same kind of fans. Like I said, Chubbs is in our chat. He's a tough talker on Twitter, but, he's a very passionate Bears fan. And so, I like being challenged in that way. But at the end of the day, we saw what happened week 1. And this very well could come to fruition. Nobody's rooting for it. We're just trying to understand how the scenarios are going to get played out. And I appreciated you, kind of mapping these out and being honest of what you wanted to see. So I'm certainly torn when it comes to going to tomorrow because Andy Dalton throws 3 touchdowns. I don't know how good that is for the Bears, and some Bears fans might flip out for me saying that, but it's only delaying the inevitable. And so for me, I'd rather just get to Justin Fields so we can get to the money on the table time when it comes to the future of our franchise. But hey, I'm impatient when it comes to that. But Danny, we promised we'd cut you loose here quick so we don't take up too much of your evening. Really appreciated you here coming on a Saturday night. Let you get to the rest of the college football slate. You got anything here for what you guys got coming up on 670 The Score this week for fans to look forward to?
Oh, just a Bears Monday. We have Pat Manley on at 3:00. We'll have Boomer Esiason on at 4, and we'll just be reacting to the weekend in the NFL and all things Bears Bengals.
All right, Danny. Well, thank you again for coming on. We'll talk to you here soon, and we'll see how this entire thing plays out. We'll be in the stands. Giving some fun coverage and showing it from the fans' point of view over here at Brags in the Stands. And we appreciate all your support here.
All right, man. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you guys. And looking forward to a Bears-Chiefs Super Bowl one day.
It's coming.
I'll be waiting for you guys. It's going to be a hell of a party.
It'll be Mahomes' 7th Super Bowl at that point.
He's spoiled rotten, this kid.
It's all right. I used to be where you guys are at, so I know how you feel. Trust me. I had Matt Castle, Tyler Thigpen. I don't even want a 2-14.
Tyler Thigpen once beat the Bears at Soldier Field. I was at that game. It was pitiful.
I remember Tyler Palco, too.
Tyler Palco. That's who it was. It was Tyler Palco. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, my God, dude. Just
boy. Well, hey.
All right,
Danny. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
That was Danny Parkins from 670 The Score doing his thing, entertaining the masses and, didn't want to keep him too long here on a Saturday night, but wanted to get his thoughts in regards to Justin Fields. And, all roads lead to Justin Fields right now. I know they have a football game to be played. There's a defense and a running back and all sorts of things to talk about when it comes to the Chicago Bears outside of our backup quarterback. But to me, none of it matters until they get the quarterback situation figured out, in my eyes. And you're going to hear those sentiments echoed by all the fans on the Lakefront tomorrow because they're booing for one reason, and it's because they all want the kid to be in.
They're going to be booing either way. told you guys you can't start Andy Dalton week 1 anyway because his prime time record in the NFL is dreadful. Like, just for his stat alone in prime time, you should have started Justin Fields and then said, all right, maybe we'll see how Justin does. But Andy Dalton's prime time stats and record are not good in prime time in his career.
That's right. So we've got another quick interview here coming up. Get the Bengals side of things. But before we do that, we're going to give a shout out to one of our sponsors. And then after the next interview, we'll give a shout out to more sponsors here. We appreciate everyone's support here at Brags in the Stands. So the Collector's Cave, my guys, they had a huge signing here today with Andre Dawson at Indiana Beach. So if you're looking for any Andre Dawson memorabilia, they're going to have it in stock. If you visit www.thecollectorscave.com, you can find all your sports memorabilia needs, including some of the newly acquired Andre Dawson memorabilia that they just got signed here today, and much more really cool Chicago sports memorabilia that you can have to add to your man cave, and then also be on the lookout for future public autograph meet and greet signings with some of your favorite Chicago sports athletes and athletes from all across the nation. So again, visit www.thecollectorscave.com. We saw my guy Michael Young in the chat earlier. Wanted to make sure you give a shout out. You got him over my shoulder here, the banners that we hang when we do our live shows. We look forward to doing some more live shows here in the future. Me and Johnny B did one a few months ago with Jim McMahon, and there was literally 2 tornadoes outside while we did it. So, rain,
show
sleet.
must go on.
Yeah, the show must go on, rain, sleet, or snow. That's what we do here at Brags in the Stand. So the show continues to roll on, and we're bringing on our guy, Lukas Moore, from the 3 a.m. Coney Bengals Cincinnati podcast. And he's actually, when I did my first radio TV gig for Region Sports Network, calling a basketball game at Crown Point High School last week, he was the play-by-play guy. And you want to talk about professionalism, Johnny? You know me, I'm just faking until I make it around here. Lukas really carried the water that day for one Gregory Braggs. So I was excited to bring him on today.
Braggs, the usual happened.
Yeah, Johnny carries the water for me here. Lukas carrying the water for me over at Region Sports Network. How we doing today, Lukas? And then you also have to explain to us I'm not a Cincinnati guy, so what is the 3 a.m. Coney?
Oh, well, yeah. That's probably the funniest thing. So a Coney is what happens at Skyline Chili or Gold Star Chili if you're from certain parts of Cincinnati. So basically the reason we call the podcast 3 a.m. Coney is, like you mentioned, Greg, I do so much like professional stuff, like Region Sports Network stuff. I really wanted a place to be a fan, and that's why there's Bengals jerseys behind me. So we call it the 3 a.m. Coney because the deepest, darkest thoughts you have about Cincinnati sports, which, by the way, Cincinnati hasn't won a home playoff game since 1995. They've had many of them since that point, since 1995. So when you get into those deep, dark thoughts, you really want a Coney, and you want it at 3 a.m. and a few beverages to go with that as well. So we just named the podcast that, and we just try to have fun on there and discuss the Cincinnati Bengals in a way that we can get lighthearted quickly. Because the Joe Burrow injury showed us last year, if you can't laugh as a Bengals fan, it's a long and hard existence.
Yeah, if there's any franchise that's been more tortured, Bears fans really have no complaining when you consider what Cincinnati Bengals fans have been through. And now, we're going up against, we're having a lot of Bears fans picking the Bears to beat the Bengals.
I just want to cut you off for a second.
Go ahead, Johnny B.
He looks very confident about his chances at winning tomorrow. So I'm just going to throw that out.
Well, I don't blame him there. And the irony of that.
My picks or anything, but he looks confident sitting there with his,
Oh,
his
me?
Yeah, hell yeah, you do. You
know why? It's not me, guys. So this shirt right here, this is a Athens Bulldogs shirt. So Athens, Ohio is in Southeast Ohio. It's the home of Ohio University and the MAC, and it's the home of Joe Burrow. And that is where the Joe Burrow story started for me. I met Joe Burrow's youth football coach, and then his high school coach, because I covered Athens football while I was there. I did play-by-play for him. So I learned all about his history before he even transferred to LSU. They told me all these stories about leadership and confidence, and I have never heard a town praise a kid so much, a kid that was currently the backup quarterback at Ohio State. So I was like, I don't know, guys. Then you watch the tape, you hear the stories, and then you see him transfer to LSU, and you just see it pile on top of each other. I mean, it was all hype in Athens. And my confidence comes from the fact that so many times you get a quarterback in an organization like you guys with Justin Fields. Well, I mean, how's his, the epilepsy, probably not a problem, but you didn't know about that, right? You don't know about his work ethic. You don't know, can he read coverages? You don't know about all these things. You got to find that out in the NFL. That's what the scouting process is about. The great thing about my experiences in Athens is that the intangibles, the Joe Burrow was changing plays at the line when he was 8 years old. That's from his youth football coach. He had full audible control at 8. You know why? His dad was a D1 defensive coordinator, and he was sitting there watching film from 5 to 8 with his dad, breaking it down, right? So this kid has been immersed in the sport of football. He learned to ride a bike on Nebraska's field, right? So there's just all these stories around that. When he came in the league, I said, you know what? The arm is maybe my one question. The accuracy isn't. But I know what's not a question. Leadership, intangibles, smarts, pre-snap, all that stuff that you want a quarterback to have. I know that he's not only going to be good at it, that within 2 years, and I think he's already close to there, one, he had the most players jump off sides other than Aaron Rodgers last year when he was hurt. As a rookie, as a guy that had never used a cadence in his career, tied Aaron Rodgers, the best in the league at it. Already drew Michael Pierce, who had not had an offside penalty since his first year offside. So things like that, Johnny, things like that, Greg, I know that Joe is going to be A+ there. So all I needed to do was see him throw the football at the NFL level and see the speed. And I'll tell you this, he is, I don't know. He's something that I cannot even describe. And I'm a Bengals fan, and I don't hope easy. And I watched Andy Dalton for a long time, and I tried to make arguments for Andy Dalton, and it's not the same. This kid is different on every level. He has changed the way the organization feels about itself, the way us Bengals fans feel about ourselves. Like, that is how Joe Burrow has affected Cincinnati. And I know it sounds dramatic, but I promise you, if you guys would have made...
Chubbs has got you in the chat saying he's curing cancer here later this season too.
Listen, I get it a lot. I hear it a lot on my own podcast. But every time I've done this for Joe Burrow, dating back to since before he transferred to LSU, every time I've hyped him up, he's backed me up. So I'll just keep doing it, and he'll just keep doing his thing. The thing about it, though, if you guys would have made Justin Fields the captain August 1st, guess who would be feeling the same way?
Right.
All those Bears fans.
We're already feeling that. He had 5 snaps and a touchdown for 3-yard run.
Greg, this is how you can feel if Justin Fields starting as quarterback.
But you're absolutely right when it comes to the pre-snap.
It's so close, Greg. It's so close.
I know we can taste it, especially if Dalton continues to flounder. But before we get to Dalton, you did mention Burrow's pre-snap and audible, understandings. Yep. There was the story here in the last week on that final play. That was his call that he made to go over the top and seal the deal and win the game, put him in field goal position. I completely agree with you. Joe Burrow is the real deal. Getting the injury obviously was the huge speed bump that, of course, Cincinnati can never avoid. They can't just have a clean sweep. You saw it with Carson Palmer, right when you guys were at the peak of your franchise here in the last 2 decades. And I think anybody could, feel bad for your fan base when that happened. But it's just ironic now because I was listening to Waddle and Sylvie, and everybody's like, I'm picking the Bears to win. Waddle and Sylvie both picked the Bears to win this week. But we're all kind of hesitant. And it was funny because Waddle referenced the Bengals' road record over the last 3 years. And it's like 3-18 or something. I don't know the exact number. It's not good. And Sylvie pointed out, he goes, yeah, well, 2 of those years was with Andy Dalton as their quarterback, who's now our quarterback. So you're referencing a stat that now goes against us because we're the one with the signal caller there. When you look at the Bears side of things, and you're from the region, so you're right outside the city of Chicago.
I actually live in Lakeview.
You live in Lakeview.
Yes,
that's
I live right here.
When we did that game in a winter night, you had just driven all the way over, in the snow from Illinois. So, you're just as plugged in, just like Johnny B, even though he's a Chiefs fan, just as plugged into the Chicago Bears and what they have going on. And, of course, this is a Chicago Bears podcast, and everybody's tuning in to hear, what you think of what's going on here. You've seen Andy Dalton. You know what he's capable of over 10 years with the Bengals. And, do you see any sense in what Matt Nagy is trying to do?
I understand his reasoning. That doesn't mean there's sense in it, right? So you can understand the way it's thinking, and I get it, but it's not what's happening right here, right? And so many people have made the reference. Andy Dalton is not Alex Smith. This is not that situation. This is not the Kansas City Chiefs. You're not Andy Reid, dude. You're Matt Nagy. And I think the more that this season goes along, I frankly think that Bears fans are going to be thanking the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend, because I think I agree 100% with what Danny Parkins was saying. I think it's better for the Bears to lose this. I think it's better for the Bears to get embarrassed. Boo Andy Dalton off the field. Era's over. Justin Fields will have no shackles. That's the thing. Do you really want Andy Dalton kind of playing well and then Justin Fields having an old big rookie game? And then everybody, well, maybe we should put Andy in. Maybe we should put Andy. And I don't know if I'm 100% confident in Bears fans' loyalty on Justin Fields, because I think he makes 3 or 4 mistakes and costs them a win. I mean, how long has loyalty lasted at the quarterback position in this city? I don't think it's ever lasted. Now, there's nobody that's been deserving of it to last. But I think what you want as a Bears fan, to be frank, is it to be very decisive on Sunday. Okay, it wasn't just the Rams. Andy Dalton's not going to beat basically anybody. Okay? And we need to score points, and our offensive line is too bad to have a guy that's not mobile. I mean, Andy Dalton hasn't been a running quarterback since TCU. Okay? Like, he ran all right in Cincinnati, but it was more in the red zone. It was more in situations, and he had 2 all-pro tackles. Like, he had plenty of time. When he ran, it was the very last option, 8 seconds into the play. So I love Andy because he is a genuinely great human being. He's one of the best human beings that's ever played in the city of Cincinnati. And the city of Chicago is lucky to have him and his family as part of the city. The problem with Andy Dalton is he's hyper limited in so many areas. He is quintessentially average. He is the definition of it. And everybody telling you that is telling you the truth, because I watched every snap the guy took for his entire time in Cincinnati. And you mentioned the Carson Palmer knee injury. I would actually say the bottom of Bengaldom was the 2015 year. Remember, the Bengals started 8-0. The Bengals finished 12-4, but Andy Dalton missed the last 3 games because he broke his thumb trying to tackle Stephon Tuitt on an interception, a shovel pass interception. It was a horrible thing of events against the Steelers, and Andy Dalton's out for the year, and we lose that wild card game with A.J. McCarron at the helm.
And of course, it's against the Steelers too.
I mean,
it's always against the Steelers. You're the most pinnacle moments.
Yeah, which that's okay, right? Again, Joe Burrow's supposedly changed our attitude. We'll see when we play the Steelers next week how different my attitude is. But in terms of the Bears talent-wise, the defense, I don't think it's this great defense anymore. And I think a lot of Bears fans realize that. The weakness that you're really going to find this weekend is the secondary. I don't think there's a single corner on the Bears that can guard consistently any of the 3 wide receivers the Bengals have. I think Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins are all 3 better wide receivers than Jalen Johnson, Kendall Vilnor, and you guys can fill in the rest of the names there. Like, it's depleting. Eddie Jackson's not helping out over the top any. And that's my big worry when you're looking at this matchup, is the Bengals dedicated themselves to quick passes and receivers winning one-on-one. And this is the perfect team to do it against.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, did I see Jamar Chase turn Patrick Peterson into a pretzel here last week? You know, and Patrick Peterson is a high pedigree of talent. Jalen Johnson has certainly gotten better here in the last, he's got, his biggest thing is to stay healthy, but he can play, and he played decently here last week. But you're right. I think it all comes down to what Eddie Jackson can do to help out Kendall Vilnor, who's still, progressing and learning if he can even handle that second quarterback slot. And then they do not have the nickel cornerback position filled out. Duke Shelley was inactive. And then this Marquis Christian, who I thought looked pretty good at camp, was getting absolutely torched here last week against, of course, the LA Rams.
None of that means anything if you don't get that push up front. If you don't get that push up front, it doesn't matter, because the receivers are eventually going to get open. They always say the best cornerback play, no matter who you have, starts with a good pass rush. And if the Bears don't get that pass rush going, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. They're not going to stop anybody with their corner.
Well, the fear for me as a Bengals fan, so I look at this game, I look at every game. I try to look at it as an analyst, but, You see the jerseys? I've admitted my bias before we started the podcast, right? But when I look at what am I scared of as a Bengals fan this weekend? Am I scared of Joe Burrow implosion? Not really. I mean, it's happened, could happen. Am I scared of the corners? Definitely not. Am I scared of Andy Dalton? There's only two things I'm scared of as a Bengals fan, and this is pretty much common throughout Bengaldom. I'm pretty tight in Bengals Twitter. The two things I'm scared of, number one, Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack finding themselves and wrecking this Bengals offensive line, which does have some worries. And I don't know if there's a good pass protector in terms of a tight end. So we can't really chip. Samaje Perine was a disaster in pass protection. I'm still worried about protection for Joe Burrow. So if you have two elite pass rushers, or at least been elite in the past, wreck the game, then yeah, I'm scared of that. The other thing I'm scared of, and I promise you, every team you play from now on out would be scared of this. I'm scared of sitting down in my seat at the upper end zone of Soldier Field on Sunday. And then I sit there, I look up, and there's Justin Fields. And they're starting. That's another thing I'm scared of. Because the Cincinnati Bengals are incapable of stopping anybody that is special in their first start. Go look at Deshaun Watson's first start against the Bengals. Go look at Lamar Jackson's first start against the Bengals. Go look at Joe Flacco's first start against the Bengals. He had a 35-yard rushing touchdown. So if Justin Fields plays and makes throws like that, then I'm terrified. But the problem is, for Bears fans, and the solution for me, and why I'm feeling even more confident, is you guys are starting Andy Dalton, who got us Joe Burrow. We tanked with Andy Dalton to get Joe Burrow. I was actively rooting against Andy Dalton successfully for 4 straight games to lose so that we would get Joe Burrow.
Chalk it up to another fan, Chubbs, that rooted against his team for the betterment of their future, their franchise. Nope. It's not a crazy concept, is it, Lucas?
No, well, we go back. There was a Week 16 game. I remember it very, very vividly. I was over at my current fiance's house, then girlfriend, but I was over there watching. I'm sitting there watching. They're playing the Dolphins. They're down 3 scores. I'm like, yes, we are going to lock up Joe Burrow, this kid from Athens. Like, just this kid from Athens. I can't believe it. He's going to my favorite team. It's crazy. And then they come back. And Andy Dalton throws a last-second touchdown, ties the game, throws that thing into overtime. It is absolute panic on my end. The Dolphins are going to get Joe Burrow. I am going to be so terrified. And they ended up losing. And it was the best loss I've ever had. It was the best loss I've ever had. Like it was like I floated. I've never been like that because the franchise changed on that day. The franchise was saved. The Bengals stadium deal, which is a very, very popular thing, it's up in 2027. If they don't win a damn playoff game in the stadium that taxpayers complain about every single year, if they don't even win one playoff game in that, you think they're going to renew the contract and pay more taxes? So then Mike Brown's going to be like, oh, I'm actually poor because I have no other business but football. So I guess we're moving. Like, the Bengals have to work with Joe Burrow or there won't be any Bengals in the 2030s. So that's kind of where we're at, to where if this kid doesn't win us a Super Bowl, I'm out. I can put these jerseys away. I don't have to force a kid I have in the future to be a Bengals fan. It's just kind of over. And like, that's why we're so like, this is it. If it's not him, we're done. Because we don't have this Bears history where, hey, 85, we got a defense together. Or an NFC championship game. Oh, remember, hey, even Jay Cutler played an NFC championship game, right? There's a little more like year-to-year hope, and the Bears are such a big brand that that's a lifelong thing. But the Bengals are so toxic that without Joe Burrow, they'd be a ship I'm ready to jump off of, and most Cincinnati fans would be in the same boat. So I plead the Bears fans, you want to feel like me every week. It is a great feeling to have an elite quarterback. And I think Justin Fields would provide that. So I recommend you boo as loud as possible to make Andy Dalton mess up on Sunday.
Well, they certainly are going to hold up that end of the bargain, and then I'll let Johnny B here chip in. But to that point, do you see Matt Nagy, and again, you're close enough to, follow Chicago sports and following what the Bears are doing, hear what they're talking about in these pressers and when you're listening onto the AM radio broadcast, do you believe there is a scenario in this game where Justin Fields becomes the starter, or do you think that Matt Nagy will wait and let this train completely wreck for the entirety of the game and then let Fields get a clean slate week 3? Or do you think at some point he'll get that itchy trigger finger and out comes the savior of the Chicago Bears?
Well, I defer to Danny Parkins on that. He says week 4, this sounds right. I don't know. It's just crazy to me. I think the The only path here is, listen, if this goes perfectly right for the Bengals, if they can block up front, it's going to be a long day. There's going to be a lot of touchdowns. I mean, it's just when Joe Burrow gets his receivers in a one-on-one matchup, right? So you go back to the national championship game. A.J. Terrell, who's a current cornerback in the NFL, a starting corner, he was guarding Jamar Chase. And what happened was Clemson decided to go man-to-man coverage sometime in the second quarter. And that's when Jamar Chase just started beating Terrell on every play. And Joe knew how to move, manipulate his eyes and do all the pre-snap things and those very quick post-snap things to make sure that Jamar was on an island every single time. And Jamar ate him up for 200-plus yards. So if Jalen Johnson can't neutralize Jamar Chase and Kendall Villeneuve can't neutralize or make average T. Higgins, that's two matchups that you're already losing bad. And we haven't even involved Tyler Boyd, who I remind you is a Pro Bowler in this league. So, and I haven't even added Joe Mixon out of the backfield. I mean, Bengals had 4.3 yards per carry against Minnesota last week.
He had the most rushing yards in the NFL last week, correct?
Exactly. So, unless the Bears would have to play some serious ball control and the Bengals would have to have a fumble problem, maybe, or Justin Fields. I mean, that's like Justin Fields is the equation here as a Bengals fan that I'm scared of. Now, there's a lot from week one that might change. I'm not confident in the Bengals' defensive showing in terms of that repeating week after week, but there were a lot of bright spots, specifically to the defensive line. We spend top 5, I believe, on our defensive line in the NFL, and they're all below the age of 28. So they're supposed to be good. If they're not good now, then I don't know what we're going to do, right? So I think that for the Bears, if you're going to play Andy Dalton, the offensive line better have its best game all season, and it better make the Bengals defensive line look like the 17-sack unit that it was last year. If it's not that, I don't know how your offense is going to really operate other than some big plays and David Montgomery for yardage. But Dalvin Cook last week, 20 carries, 62 yards. And I know we're high on David Montgomery, but is he better than Dalvin Cook? I don't know. Is the Bears offensive line better than the Vikings?
I would say that David is better than Dalvin Cook, but I'm also biased as a Bears fan, and I'm going off of one game, but David is showing a new self this year. I mean, that was the Rams defense that he was knifing through and wasn't getting – there's a few runs where there was no blocking around him. So, I mean, he's got to prove it over a year span, but I certainly think he has the talent. Johnny B, I'm going to kick it over to you. You do have a question in the chat, because you are the gambling man here. Wants to know the over-under here on this Bears-Bengals game. Maybe you can answer that here later on. But, unless you have it right in front of you. Other than that, fire away here at Lucas.
I don't have it, to be honest with you, because I'm afraid exactly what he's saying. I'm afraid that there's going to be some points scored in this game. And I'm unfortunately thinking that the Bengals might score a lot of points if the Bears defense doesn't get that pass rush. So I'm going to be staying away from that one on the over-under, to be honest with you. I got to ask, this is not football related, but he was talking about the chili and everything. I have a good friend who's a Bengals fan, and he's a tortured soul. I mean, the guy is so tortured. He's got seats in the 5th row on the 40 or 35-yard line. I go to games all the time with him when the Chiefs are on a bye or something like that. He invites me out. But when you go to Grader's Ice Cream, what is your go-to?
Grader's? I don't know, man. I usually buy ice cream at the store. But with Grader's, I do classic vanilla. Strawberry top.
That's what my favorite is. Everybody starts to go this raspberry chip, chocolate chip or something. I always go with the straight vanilla. But I just want to know. I can see your confidence. I can see that you have been through this song and dance that Bears fans are going through right now with Andy Dalton at the helm. What is your prediction for the game?
I'm trying to remember what I officially predicted on the Coney. I believe I said Bengals 34, Bears 21. I think that's reasonable.
Would probably be the over just for that caller.
Yeah, that's the over. I think leave the numbers in the 40s.
Yeah, it would be in the 40s, I believe. So
yeah, I really don't see the Bengals unless there's turnovers, right? Unless a punt gets blocked, right? There's wild football games, but in the normal rhythm of most football games, unless Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack have a big day, I don't see the Bengals scoring less than 30. I really don't. I mean, I really, really don't. Last week, they went minus 19% in terms of what they were expected when they were expected to pass. It was like this weird dedication to the run that we'll see something again. We might see that again, that dedication to the run. But when you get the matchups outside that you have, I just like the Vikings secondary a little more than the Bears. I trust the Vikings defense. Well, I think the Vikings defense, they added a lot of pieces. I think they're going to be a really good unit come the end of the year. But again, that's week one and it remains to be seen. But I think 34-21 because I don't see Joe Burrow scoring less than 30 if most things go right for his offense, just because of the way the matchups are, the way everything plays out. Now, who's going to guard T. Higgins? Who's going to guard Tyler Boyd? I mean, these guys are legitimate Pro Bowl contenders, all three of them. Will they all three be in the Pro Bowl? No, but all three of those players are Pro Bowl potential, all pro potential. They certainly are. Tyler Boyd's been in the Pro Bowl. Jamar Chase was the 5th overall pick. T. Higgins was a rookie with 900 yards a year ago. So those are three guys with Pro Bowl potential. So,
well, you're getting the chat fired up. We're all Bears fans here. I did pick.
What you want. You want to get smoked so that Justin Fields can get.
I said I wouldn't be upset at that scenario. Okay, this is how I painted it. Now Parkins is a little more stronger in his verbiage. I'm just saying it won't be the worst thing in the world if it does happen, as long as Matt Nagy does the right thing and then inserts Justin Fields for the last 15 weeks of the season. If he doesn't, then it's just a continued waste of time. Then we head to Cleveland, and if he plays Dalton in that game, I'm going to be beside myself. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves in that regard. I couldn't do it, even though I had mapped out this scenario where the Bears start 0-2 and then Justin Fields starts week 3. I couldn't get it out of my head that, if I went into this game, I've gone to home openers before where the hype is real. 2019, right after we made the playoffs, and every Bears fan just wants to beat the Packers as bad as possible, and it's a complete letdown of a game. If I was going into this game wanting the Bears to win so badly with every fiber of my being, they'd lose, because that's how my life goes as a Bears fan. Yeah, I think you can understand that. As a Bengal fan, whenever you want something too bad, it never comes to fruition, it seems like. Now I'm looking at it the other way. Because I'm going in with mixed feelings, I just see this, like, I feel like it's going to be the Andy Dalton game. He's playing his old team. He got drugged through the streets this week. You got the coach talking about, Bill Lazor's talking about Justin Fields, even though Bill Lazor used to coach with Andy Dalton. You got players talking about Justin Fields. And then now here come the Bengals, his old team. The Bengals, while have a lot of quality talent, they're certainly primed to become that next team, take that next step, maybe like the Chargers are showing right now, or the Cardinals with Kyler Murray. I still think they have a lot to prove. It's on the lakefront. And in football, it's always close. Every game ends up being decided by 3 points, whether we like it or not. And I just see the Bears getting lucky and squeaking one out, and my worst fears are assumed. And it's not because, the team is fine and the offense is fine. It's just that the Bears win on some luck and a field goal to win the game at 24-21, something like that is what I ended up picking. And that's what I don't want as a fan. I want it to be decisive, like you were saying earlier, one way or the other. And I would lean towards what you're saying, because then that means Justin Fields, and I'm going to get torched by Bears fans, but it's a fact, because I'm not going to fall for the mirage. If Andy Dalton throws for 5 touchdowns, Matt Nagy comes into the presser pounding his chest saying, "See, I told you so." I'm just going to be rubbing my head, because, they play the Browns next week with Myles Garrett and
let me just remind you, Greg, that you're saying the revenge game or something. That qualifies to a true starting franchise quarterback. Andy Dalton is you only see that usually if some guy like Montana gets old or something and they trade him away. I mean, I don't know if you have to worry about the revenge game. That's usually for a true franchise quarterback.
That's just prototypical for Chicago, and more than likely, maybe I should have used my common sense, like Lukas is here with the matchups, and the matchups speak to the Bengals. But football is just a weird sport, and it's just I can see the Bears. They've been drugged through the coals this week, and I could just see them putting out a good effort. It's their first game in 2 years on the lakefront with fans in the stands. There's going to be an energy there. Now, if the Bengals get out to an early lead and the Bears go on a 3-and-out, that energy is going to be extremely negative. I agree. No one, Chubbs, I agree. No one gives a fuck about Andy Dalton's revenge game except for Andy Dalton.
No, I don't think Andy. No, I disagree with that, Greg. I don't think Andy's ever been driven by revenge. And the few times in his career that it felt like he was driven by revenge, all he did was make him worse. He's too nice of a person to play revenge politics or to play this game. And every time he tries to act tough and grow a beard, and I'm going to be an elite quarterback, he's out of character. He's just out of character.
He's got a beard right now.
I know. That's the thing. Like,
man.
He is out of character. This is not who Andy Dalton was meant to be. Andy Dalton was meant to be a guy that leads a great roster. That's your good rah-rah guy in the huddle. Everybody likes him, and he'll always make, at least most of the time, the right decision. He does not have enough talent to play pissed off. In football, at quarterback, if you play pissed off, you're going to try to fit balls into tight little windows. And if you don't got the talent to do it, that's just going to be a bad day for you. And I am praying, Greg, that you think, and you're right, that Andy Dalton's going to try to make this a revenge game, because that means in his head, it'll be like a primetime game. And Johnny B already mentioned how horrible he is when the pressure's on, when the lights are bright, when it all matters. When it comes down to this, that's when Andy folds. Andy will be better served treating Sunday as just another Sunday 12 o'clock kick. That's how he'll be better served. If he comes out thinking, I need to make sure that the Bengals know they made a mistake, well, he's going to make about 3 or 4 mistakes, and Justin Fields is going to be playing by halftime.
Yeah, hey, and those are strong words, and I got to tend to lean on agreeing with you too, because one thing, and I don't know if you got a chance to watch it on Monday Night Football, the extra broadcast with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. It was really good, and I know you as a play-by-play guy, it kind of takes a little bit of the thunder away from the original play callers, but was great insight.
Oh, yeah.
And, Peyton Manning said at one point during that broadcast that, defenders and other players, they can play hyped up and pissed off, and that might motivate them to play better. Quarterbacks cannot do that. Quarterbacks have to be even-keeled and not show emotion, and then that's their best chance of playing at a top level.
Listen, everybody comes out. The year starts at 0. All the fans are hyped. Obviously, a little bit more, with places like Chicago and New York and California that didn't have any fans at all last year. The first couple of weeks of the season are always crazy. You see some weird stuff. But you know what? It settles down pretty quick, and you really see what the reality of the season is going to be. So anything can happen. It's NFL, like they say, any given Sunday. But, when it comes down to it, for me, it's the trenches. And if you don't have it going in the trenches, whether it's offensive line protection or, more importantly, defensive pass rush, there's really nothing to it unless you have somebody that can just go down and score 35 points every game. So it could be interesting, but I don't know. I just don't know how the Bears are going to stop those receivers, to be honest. But we'll see.
And what were you going to say to that point, Lucas?
Well, I think Johnny just carried it away there with the receivers. I mean, that's where, if you're a Bears fan sitting in the stands, right? Shout out to the name of the podcast. If we're sitting in the stands, your eyes need to be on, one, what type of coverage the Bears are playing. Because if they try to bring extra pressure to test the Bengals offensive line, I think that's a huge mistake. I think they need to sit back and say, hey, Khalil, we're paying you a bunch of money, dude. Go win.
Get there.
That's it. That's what this game needs to be. If the Bears can't rush 4, Joe Burrow will annihilate them. Annihilate them. You got to be able to rush 4 in this game, because Joe Burrow's strength is working quickly and against the blitz. And the only way that was counteracted last year, so the Ravens, he had a really bad game. The Steelers, he had a bad game, because those guys have great corners. They've got great corners. They can hold down a blitz. They can stay one-on-one for just 3 seconds, which is all you need. Can the Bears secondary do that against T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd? I say the answer is no. I say it's no. Can the Bears get pressure with their front 4? That one I don't know. And that's why I will never be 100% confident. But that's the thing where I'm going to be watching, like, okay, if Akeem Hicks just is messing up Trey Hopkins, our center, who had a 36 PFF grade last week and is coming off an ACL that happened after Joe Burrow's ACL. If Akeem Hicks just starts going up the middle and bossing around the Bengals center, that's a problem. And that might slow down the Bengals offense. If Khalil Mack, who's made Riley Reif the Bengals' new right tackle, who didn't allow a pressure last week, if he makes Riley Reif look the way Riley Reif has looked against Khalil Mack in his career before, go look up a viral Twitter clip of Reif trying to like tackle Khalil from behind.
Yeah.
And he's just dragging him into the backfield. If that happens, that's your path, because then you can stall the Bengals offense. And the Bengals defense is not great. At best, they're a now top 15 unit with a dangerous pass rush when you have to throw. That's not great. And you can move the ball if you're the Bears, especially with David Montgomery. But if you just allow Joe Burrow to sit back there and all day, clean jersey, that white top, no grass on it, I mean, there's no ceiling to what Joe Burrow can do. And I think anybody that watched him in 2019 with LSU, you know,
Chubbs wants me to challenge you, but I can only go so much with this ammunition. I mean, I do think that they can stop the run. That last week they stalled the Rams run game for a time when the game was still in flux, 13-7 at half. But I am still worried about getting to the quarterback, because most teams know to get the ball out quickly against the Bears. And the secondary, you know, I mean, it wasn't taking very long for plays to develop down the field that turned into 40-yard gashes, you know. So, you know, I can only challenge this for so long. I picked the Bears to win against my better judgment, but I'm just going off my gut, because that's what I am. I'm not an analyst. I'm a fan in the stands, and I go off of my gut. And, you know, I do feel like they are going to get the win, you know, for better or worse, however it plays out. But, you know, I agree with a lot of the sentiments you're saying here. It's just going to be interesting to see it all play out, because it's fresh with the Bengals still. As I said earlier, they still have a lot to prove. It's all there on paper, but, you know, it's still, you know, something. Can they do it consistently week to week, you know, is going to be the question that they have to show, you know, and they got off to a great start. They let the Vikings come back into the game. So I could see something like that playing out where, you know, the first quarter we're down 10-0, 14-0, and then they let the Bears come back into the game. That's been the Bengals for, you know, 2 decades.
Yeah. And right now, the one place I guarantee you have an advantage is that head coach, guys. And I know we hate Matt Nagy in Chicago. I hear it all the time.
We do.
But he's a much better coach than Zach Taylor. I believe they've been in the league the same amount of time. No, this is Zach Taylor's 3rd year. So I think Matt's been 1 extra year.
Yeah, he's got 4.
Anyway, Zach Taylor is now 7-25-1. Okay. He's not great. Okay. Now the Bengals culture, and like Zach being all positive, it might end up working out, because Joe Burrow made Ed Orgeron a rich man. Okay. Rich man. All right. And Ed Orgeron barely speaks English. So I think Zach Taylor could maybe find some success in Cincinnati because of, again, the guy I've been hyping the whole time, Joe Burrow. That's where all the hope stems from. That's what a franchise quarterback is and does for a team. You know it as a Chiefs fan, Johnny. It changes the whole equation of whatever you're doing.
I can tell you this. I used to be superstitious and all this, and I still do a little bit of it, but I don't know. I no longer believe in luck. I believe in Patrick Mahomes and the ability to do all the things that you're saying that you saw with Joe Burrow doing. I can tell you the stories that I've heard about Mahomes when he was 7 and 8, you know, with his dad on the baseball field, MLB baseball field. And I just know that if that is within 14 points and there's 5 minutes left, there is no chance I think I'm losing with Pat Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. And you know, Bengals fans are not saying Joe Burrow is Pat Mahomes, but we feel the same way. Now the ACL happened, so now we're like, oh, my God. Are we allowed to cuss on this, Greg?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Oh, shit. The Bengals are going to mess this up, right? Oh, my God. This guy that was unmissable, we're going to mess it up. The team I had to cheer for as a kid that I defended on the radio, they're the ones that are going to mess it up. So that's why we still have luck, because the organization is not anything. It's garbage. It's a joke. And, Johnny, I've got a fun story you'll enjoy. But before I want to say to all the Bears fans, I know I'm seeming confident, but I definitely could see the Bengals losing this game. It's totally possible. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. It's week 2. There's some things in week 1 that could have been a mirage.
They almost blew it last week, and they had no business.
Yeah, they almost blew it last week. Totally possible. And I'll be in the stadium, and they don't tend to do well when I'm there.
Oh, you're going. Very nice.
So it'll be, I got tickets last second. It'll be a little nervous. But, Johnny, my favorite story for you, you have to hear it before I go. The year was 13, I believe. Alex Smith was the quarterback of the Chiefs. What year did you guys start 0-5? Do You remember that?
No, dude. I tried to black all that from my memory. It was probably 2012 or 13.
Well, Matt Nagy was there because he's talked about the 0-5 start last year during the losing streak. He mentioned that 0-5 start because the Chiefs made the playoffs that year. That offseason, my good buddy, who was the quarterback of our high school team, he switched fandoms from the Bengals to the Chiefs. Okay. And I just told him, dude, the Chiefs are just the West Coast Bengals, but they won their Super Bowls, dude. They don't have an elite quarterback.
Right.
They're getting to the first round of the playoffs and getting bounced. They hadn't had a playoff win since the 90s. What are you doing, dude? And he goes over there. They make the playoffs that year, win a playoff game while the Bengals lose to the Steelers. Then he gets Patrick Mahomes, and now he's had 3 Super Bowls watched. And he traded he did a full fan send. He traded all his stuff. He sat through the 0-5. And that's whenever I see the Chiefs logo, I just think of a guy who made a decision I don't have enough courage making, which is switching teams like that. And he did it full send. He never came back. I offered him multiple times. Bengals were 8-0. Chiefs were 3-5. He didn't care. He stuck with it, and now he's rewarded with a Super Bowl and arguably the most talented quarterback the league's ever seen.
Yeah, that was probably 2000. What did you think it was?
15. I swear it's 15.
I think it was 2015. And then we ended up beating the Texans in the first round of the playoffs, maybe. And it was our first win, playoff win in since, like you said, since 90 something, 95 or something like that.
Yeah. And I remember he was just sitting there gloating because they had won, and then they watched the primetime game where the Bengals blew it in the rain and the Steelers. And I'm sure everybody remembers the Vontaze Burfict knocking Antonio Brown's head off game. So that's just, and I love that fan moment there, but it makes me jealous of the Chiefs every time I see the logo. I mean, I'll just be honest. I just look at it and go, man, that looks like a lot of fun to be a Chiefs fan.
Well, I used to be tortured like Bengals fans and Bears fans alike. I used to be there. I used to be the tortured guy. I've been a Chiefs fan for a long time, since the 80s when I was a little kid. And I got to tell you, if you guys ever get there, it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling to hoist the Lombardi.
Which AFC quarterback are you most scared of, Johnny, to be better than Mahomes? I know you don't think anybody will be, but who's the one you look at and go, oh boy, in terms of the AFC?
I thought it was maybe last year it was going to be Josh Allen a little bit with the way he was developing. And then we showed him twice in a row last year, once on the road and once in the AFC Championship. And, I'm just looking forward, to be honest, to that Aaron Rodgers and Mahomes that matchup. That's our extra game, and it's at Arrowhead. We didn't get it a couple of years ago, the year we won the Super Bowl, because of the dislocated kneecap where Mahomes sat a couple games. So I'm looking forward to that. And to be honest with you, I'm the type of guy, I'm a competitor, an athlete, and played at the high level. And I'm just ready to go against anybody, man for man, team versus team, and let's line it up and see who's better on that day. But I'm not scared of anybody. I'm going to be honest.
Chubbs is sick of hearing your shit, Johnny B. He's so fired up in the chat right now. But hey, we're 3 fans that have been through the struggles. Now you're living in the Chiefs' glory, and it seems like as far as where your quarterback and team is ascending, Lucas, it's certainly at the level I think Bears fans are hoping they can get to maybe by the end of this season. But they still have to get that quarterback switch in. So it'll be certainly interesting to see how that goes. Go ahead.
Just a one note on Bengals history. Bears fans might not care. The last 2 times the Bengals played in Soldier Field, they won the AFC North that season, 2013 and 2005. The last 2 times they played at Soldier Field, they won the AFC North that season. I don't know what that means.
I tried to get Chad Johnson to come on the podcast. He's talking all this shit on Twitter saying nobody wants to talk football with me. And I told him, I was like, come on the show this week. We'll bring you on. We'll talk all football you want, Ocho Cinco, because I feel like he owes us after dancing in our end zone, doing the Irish jig or whatever he was doing.
Oh, yeah, I love that game, man.
All the different ones. But, it'll certainly be interesting. You're welcome to come tailgate with us, Lucas. We'll be at the corner of Wabash and Cermak. It's right across the street from a White Castle, and it's the Chicago Bears Tailgating Club. I'll be there bright and early at 6 a.m., but I'll probably be leaving the lot around 9:30 to get to the stadium because the gates open around 10 a.m., and I go in right away, unlike a lot of fans who try to get every last drop of booze in before they enter around kickoff at noon. But you be careful going in too close to kickoff because there's a bum rush to the gate, and it takes a little bit to get through the metal detectors and all that. So give yourself some time so you can make sure you see kickoff and all that. But I'm excited to see that. And I appreciate you coming on here tonight, Lucas. You're a pro's pro. You know, I enjoyed working side by side with you for Region Sports Network. And, you know, before I let you go, you know, something we always do with our special guests, I didn't get a chance to ask Danny because I wanted him to get rolling to his kiddo, putting his kiddo down. But we ask our guests to give a station ID. And since you are a part of Region Sports Network, and they certainly help promote and support what we do over here at Brags in the Stands, I would love to get a station ID from you and maybe spotlight the fact that you can say it however you want, you know, and your name and title and I mean, I'm assuming you know what a station ID is. You're a pro.
Yeah. Like I'm Lukas Moore from Region Sports Network.
Exactly.
Only game in town.
Exactly. However you want to phrase it, and then say you're listening to Brags in the Stands will be the final punchline, and then we'll play it in future shows. And I think that'd be perfect because, like I said, you do such a great job with everything you do, but specifically on Region Sports Network.
Well, yeah, and Region Sports is where I get to be the professional that my degree says I'm supposed to be. So I always enjoy doing that. So you want me to do it right now?
Yeah. So I'll give you a countdown, and we'll mute your mic so it sounds all clean, and then I'll give you the countdown, and you can hit it however you like. And I know you're going to get it on the first take because you know what you're doing. It would take me 100 takes, but it'll only take you maybe one. I don't want to put too much pressure on you, but I'll put your nameplate up that our good buddy Jake, and our co-host and producer of the show, it's his birthday today, and he made these nice nameplates for everybody. So shout out to Jake, and I'll give you the countdown in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, I'm Lukas Moore from the Region Sports Network, the only game in town, and you're watching Brags in the Stands.
Boom. How you like that, Johnny B?
Well, obviously the guy is going to hit it on the first try. I mean, let's go. I mean,
there was so much pressure.
I mean, I don't know when these people come on this show and they're stumbling and they can't. I mean, it's one sentence. I mean, why is it that hard? You just look into the camera and you let it loose. I mean,
well, you got guys that try to ad lib and do different things, and we welcome whatever creativity people want to bring to it. But short and sweet and clean is always the good way to go. But Lucas, we certainly want to bring you on here again going forward, even beyond your Cincinnati knowledge.
Yeah, I love talking Chicago sports, but I'm sorry it was Bengals Bears this week. I just had to lay the Joe Burrow icing on thick.
That's right. And we needed that insight because we need to see how it's going to go on Sunday. And this is a preview show. So
before he goes,
go ahead, Johnny B.
Jamar Chase, the chances of him scoring a touchdown tomorrow, anytime touchdown score, how confident are you?
Yeah. I see, Johnny. I really, because I know
10 being the most confident of all time.
I would say 6, and the only reason for that is not his talent. It's because I don't know what the Bengals' game plan is with the 3 receivers. Jamar Chase was the primary target last week on third downs, red zone, important situations. Jamar Chase was the one. Is that going to be a weekly thing, or are they going to exchange it between the 3 because they think so highly of the 3 of them? Will Jamar be a decoy one week? I'm not 100% on that, so that's why I'm putting it at a 6. I think talent-wise, if he was the number 1 this week, I'd say like 9. That he's going to find a way to the end zone.
Is he considered on the depth chart as a wide receiver 1?
He is the wide receiver 1.
And if T. Higgins is the one with the pedigree and the moxie, and they put Jalen Johnson on him, then Jamar Chase certainly will have his opportunities if he's matched up alongside Kendall Vildor or Marquis Christian, or
Greg, maybe I'll throw you some respect. I'll do a David Montgomery, Jamar Chase, like same
parlay.
Okay.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Make sure you come and say hi at some point if you want, Lucas. Not sure where you're sitting, but message me, and if you want to meet up during the game, I'll try to make my way over to you. I'm always moving around it. Thank you for all your insight today, and appreciate you bringing it as you always do, and carrying me during the high school basketball season. I look forward to doing some more games with you here going forward, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait till we get you back out there. I thought you did a great job, and I'd love to be right next to you again for one of these basketball games coming up. I love you. I think you do a great job football, but I know you're busy, and Friday nights is tough.
Yeah,
It does wear you out.
Shane, my buddy Shane from the Tape Never Lies Network, he'll give me shit, but I do have a family, so I got to be able, if I'm doing stuff on Sundays and I got all this stuff, at some point I got to be around the kiddo and my wife, or they may leave me and I wouldn't even know it because I'm at all these games, but we're looking forward to it. Big Dollar Dave is looking forward to seeing the Messiah that you painted for us here today. He said a little tongue in cheek, but I don't blame you for being excited about your franchise quarterback, because that's what we're trying to get excited about here in Chicago. So thanks again, Lucas, for all your insight, and we'll definitely bring you on here real soon.
It was a ton of fun. I really appreciate it. And other than this week, trust me, I cheer for the Bears. This is the only week I won't do it.
All right. Well, we don't blame you there, and we'll see how it plays out. All right, Lucas.
All right,
enjoy the game on Sunday.
Thanks, guys.
Later.
Yes, sir. That is Lukas Moore from the 3 a.m. Coney and Region Sports Network, the only game in town. That's what we do here. And another thing we always do here.
Are you stealing his lines now, dude?
No, that is the Region Sports Network plug, the only game in town.
Do you have like a catchphrase that you use when you do the basketball?
That's literally the catchphrase that everyone on Region Sports Network uses.
You got to have your own, man.
That is their punchline, period. Everyone says it.
What's your phrase?
It's not Lucas's. It's what everybody says on Region Sports Network.
Whammy!
Oh, my goodness. That's what everybody says on Region Sports Network. It's not a Lucas thing. It's a Region Sports Network thing. I mean, he makes it sound great. Like I said, didn't I tell you this guy, he's a pro's pro. I'm not, it's no smoke. This guy I was just so impressed, when we did the game, he just has that sound, he's got that charisma.
No doubt.
I really enjoy, my talks with Lukas Moore. So that Lukas Moore interview was brought to you by FanBags, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs, or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with FanBags Cornhole. There we go. That was you did all right there, Johnny. Kind of a little off there.
What do you mean off? You were pausing for 10 seconds at the end.
Yeah, I was looking at you to see if you were going to do it.
I was ready. I'm always ready, baby.
I don't know.
Why is this guy not saying this?
What tagline for Brags in the Stands, Big Daddy Dave, or tagline for Region Sports Network?
Like I say, woo, I say Ducks line up, I say let's effing go at the game, but I don't. Obviously, I say the real thing.
You do have the Ducks line up tagline. That is your
line up. Ducks line up.
And we're gonna have to get a duck race in here sooner or later.
It was pretty crazy at the game. Actually, it got a lot of people yelling "Ducks line up" when I walked by. It was kind of funny.
You're making a name for yourself, Johnny B. You bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm to what you do. Whether it's gambling talk, duck races with your Kansas City Chiefs, or if we can get one here with the Bears here soon, your Bears duck races, people love them. And of course, just, everything you bring as far as being an avid fan in the stands. And that's what we do here at Brags in the Stands, just rolling along here. And speaking of fans in the stands, last night I had the opportunity to go see Frank the Tank, Frank Schwindel, with my guy, Nick Verha, and he is actually in the other room. He's a good friend that I met.
Is that you
in London when the Bears were playing in London a couple years ago? We've developed a good friendship. He's come out here a couple times, and he joins us on Brags in the Stands now. How we doing here?
There's dad in that picture or something, dude. That was funny. Was that you in the middle of that picture, Bragg?
Why? Why do I look funny? What did I do?
You look like the dad or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I am the dad. Nick, when we went to the liquor store earlier, Nick got carded as we walked in the door. She right away, she was like, "Are you 21?" And I just walked by to get the drinks, and he's got to show his card. I go, why didn't I get ID'd? And she's
Obviously,
like, you ain't the baby face.
Yeah, you do not have the baby face, Braggs. Yeah, that's for sure. You're never getting carded ever again.
Nick's got the baby face here.
Yeah. I still get carded. And to get back to your tagline, Greg, if the Bears continue to not start Justin Fields, it just might be all we riot. First game it was give him snaps or we riot. Now it's give him a series or we riot. Next game it's probably start him or we riot.
You do talk about rioting quite a bit on Twitter, Greg. I see it all the time.
It's become my tagline.
There's a song by 3 Days Grace called "Let's Start a Riot." It's by 3 Days Grace. Maybe that can be your theme song as you start all these riots, as you try to get your savior, Justin Fields, out the field.
Asking you shall receive, Big Dollar Dave, because we need a tagline. And what's funny about this is you guys are hitting the nail on the head, because our guy Jake, producer and co-host, creator, helped create what we do here at Braggs in the Stands. He surprises me last night. It's his birthday today, and he's surprising me, doing the nameplates. But then also, while we're at the Cubs Brewers game, he drops this on me. A new shirt to the Braggs in the Stands Teespring shop, and it says, name Fields the starter or we riot. And he told me, he goes, that's your name. That's your new saying. Everything is we riot, as you said, Johnny B.
Yeah.
So you can get this shirt on the Braggs in the Stands Pro Shop on teespring.com, and it's available right now. And all you got to do is search Braggs in the Stands on Google and Teespring, pop right up, and there's all our options. You can get the Start Justin Fields or We Riot shirt. You can get Braggs in the Stands. You got the Cash Mooney shirts. You got, of course, the very popular QB1 shirts, and then you got the Fields Day that you see me wearing right here, commemorating the day we drafted Justin Fields. So a lot of different options are starting to get added, and really excited about a couple new additions that are coming to the shirt store here in the next couple months, but that's the tease. Not going to give away exactly what it is, but we're always coming up with new ideas, fun stuff here at Braggs in the Stands. So there you go, Big Dollar Dave. We got the, name Fields starter or we riot. And that is my tagline for Braggs.
That was a nice segue without even knowing.
You like that? And Nick the professional brings that up. Now, Nick's in the actual other room. He's got the 3 TVs in front of him. He's got Penn State on the big screen. He's got the Cubs Brewers on the small screen, and then another football game, I think Georgia on the third TV.
Yeah.
So I'm in the other room. If anyone in the chat can hear an echo, let me know, because I kind of could hear him back here, but I don't know if it's getting picked up through the mic. If it's not, then we'll just keep it rolling along. It isn't a little extreme. We are rioting if Justin Fields.
What's happening?
If Justin Fields isn't named the starter. And we haven't gone this far with the Fire Nagy shirt yet, but it's certainly coming down the line, guys. And before we get to Johnny B's picks, Nick, you're a diehard Bears fan. We can talk about some of the things we experienced last night, but I want you to react to what Bill Lazor had to say in the presser earlier this week. I'll play the clip and let you react on the other side.
I would have said after the preseason that he's moving quickly and ready for whatever's thrown at him. So I don't think anything's changed.
If he's ready for it, then why isn't he getting those additional chances?
I think Matt's probably addressed what his philosophy is on the quarterback position. I don't think that's for me to answer that.
There it is. Bill Lazor certainly not taking the easy route by saying, hey, Andy Dalton's our starter, and that's that. He threw some rose petals to Justin Fields, saying he'd be ready for anything, and he has been since the end of the preseason. Did you look at that as a crack, in the armor of this, everybody sticks together, Bears shield, Bears players, coaches, all united? Doesn't really seem like to me, and I asked Danny Parkins if he felt like a mutiny or, a divided locker room is, on the way here, and he kind of pushed back on that. Do you see this locker room dividing in the way that the Trestman locker room did, in his second year, if it continues to go the way it has after what we saw last week?
I don't think the locker room is on that way yet. It's not a divided locker room so far. I think last year we even saw Laser push back on some Matt Nagy stuff, like distancing himself, still saying this is Matt Nagy's offense, even after he did take over the play calling. He's always been a little bit more on the backside and letting Matt Nagy take the responsibility for his offense. And I think that's definitely fair on Laser's part. For me, I'd like to see Laser take over play calling again, preferably with Justin Fields at quarterback. But I don't think it shows a divided locker room yet. It could definitely develop in that way, but you have to give Matt Nagy something, even during that losing streak last season. You got to give him credit for keeping the locker room on his side and still making the playoffs, because it definitely looked like he would be losing the locker room last year, and he might even be fired after the season, but he still turned it around. Granted, the schedule got easier at the end, but still to keep everyone through that, 6 games, I think, losing streak, to keep everyone still buying into his team. I think Matt Nagy is a good coach in that way, and I don't think he has lost the locker room yet. About the starting quarterback situation, we have all discussed this at length by now, and I feel like we all want to see Justin Fields. It's just not going to happen. And I think it's kind of funny that you see even some people in the coaching staff being like, I don't really know why he's not starting yet.
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'd have to push back on you. You know, we've discussed this, in private, but, to me, him giving up the play calls last year after he benched Mitch to bring in Foles, who lost 6 in a row, and then have to give up his play calling, basically, as Sylvie says, firing himself. And that's what turned the season around, is a quarterback he benched and a play caller that wasn't him. That was Bill Lazor. And, now he takes the play calling back, and you got Marquise Goodwin, as we played the clip earlier, taking a shot at him. It's a direct shot. There's no other way to sugarcoat that. To me, it is a little closer to a locker room being divided, even with David Montgomery saying the things he said. I understand it's easy to say something glowing about Justin Fields. He has the it. He has the spark. But nobody's stupid. Everybody hears what's going on in the media with the fan base and the vitriol. David Montgomery hears that stuff. So for him to pile on by not making Nagy's life any easier, he didn't have to say those things when you're talking about a backup quarterback that's only coming in for a few snaps. He could just stick to the company line of, Dalton is our guy, and when Justin Fields is ready, he's going to be ready. But he didn't. He said, Justin Fields has that it, and that's alluding to something bigger, in my opinion. I'm not rooting for a divided locker room, but I can see it coming. And, Matt Nagy has had the quarterback excuse built in with Mitch Trubisky here these last few years. And I think everybody was ready for a reset, especially when they drafted Justin Fields. You saw how excited these players were when they drafted him. And now they're starting out, and it feels like same old, same old. To me, he's got to get it turned around quickly to earn the respect of these veterans in this locker room, or else it could continue to crack at the seams. But, he can get it turned around. They could win this week, and winning cures all. So it'll certainly be interesting. What's the score of that Penn State-Auburn game?
10-7 Auburn.
10-7 Auburn, the whiteout game at Penn State. Ghost Rider helping us out. Ghost Rider, see, we're going to have to bring Ghost Rider on, Johnny B, because he's as much into gambling. I was on the phone with him and Trey Tunes the other day. He's just as much into gambling as you are, so we'll let you guys chop it up here one day.
There's a lot of people that are into the gambling more and more, just with podcasts and shows and now the apps. Like, it's so easy now if you're in a state that has legalized gambling, and it's going to be eventually all 50 states. They're kind of going one at a time now, just getting knocked down. Tennessee now, and Iowa and Indiana, Illinois, and there's a lot more, obviously, Nevada. So it's real easy when you can make a bet and you're not at the game, or even if you are at the game, and you can just put that whatever you want, and anything from $10 to thousands of dollars from your phone. It's pretty easy to make a bet. So a lot of people are really into it right now.
Well, Johnny B, I guess we're talking about good segues. And, Nick, we can get back into the Bears if you have any extended thoughts on that. But as we're rolling along into this show, a lot of people tune in to hear Johnny B's picks for this week. And, Johnny B worked hard this week. Last week he put some picks out even before he went into the Chiefs-Browns game. We can play the clip. Johnny was sharing some pictures and videos he had there. Here was Johnny B and his lovely wife, Abby, here in the stands after a big Chiefs win. Always enjoying it, always having a good time in the stands. And, of course, there's the trophy that Nick and I are drooling over because we haven't gotten to, hoist it as fans.
The first time I saw it, that was the first time I actually got to see it because last year, even though I was at a lot of games, they didn't let you wander around the stadium normally how you would. So I didn't actually get a chance to see the trophy, the Lombardi that we won in Super Bowl 54 until just this last trip. So I got to see obviously the first one there from Super Bowl 4, and then there was Super Bowl 54, and then the 2 AFC championship trophies. I got to see those as well, and then obviously Mahomes' jersey and football from the game and all that stuff. And I actually have 2 of those exact tickets somewhere in this room as I was in attendance. But that's the exact ticket that we all got.
Do you got it in a nice placeholder? Because I've got my my ticket from the World Series somewhere around here.
Yeah, it's in a holder. I'm in the process of building my Chiefs room / closet / where I do this. I actually have a custom piece of artwork getting done right now, and it's almost finished. So I'm anxious to show that to the world once it gets done, but it's pretty amazing. I'm not going to spoil what it is.
There you go.
It might be. It might have Showtime somewhere in it. Who knows? We'll see.
Well, Nick and I got to see the Super Bowl trophy when we were in London when Akeem Hicks was doing a signing at what was it, an NFL shop? Pretty cool.
Yeah, the NFL shop.
And who was the quarterback there? Because this was a really funny story. Who was the quarterback for the Raiders that was there?
Boomer,
no, it wasn't Boomer. Man, who's the quarterback from the 70s?
Jim Plunkett?
Yeah, Jim Plunkett.
Is it Jim Plunkett?
I'm pretty sure. And what was so funny about it, this guy's like in the Hall of Fame. Jim Plunkett,
oh yes,
way more famous to Raider fans than Akeem Hicks is to Bears fans. But it's all Bears fans at London for this Bears-Raiders takeover. And when you came to the store to see these guys, there was nobody in line for Jim Plunkett. And literally nobody, not one person. The entire store was in line to see Akeem Hicks. And was Peanut Tillman there as well? Yeah, Peanut Tillman and Akeem Hicks. And poor Jim Plunkett. I went up and shook his hand and said hi. But nobody knew who he was. It was so funny. And that was when Nick and I got to, lay our eyes on the Lombardi trophy. Not sure if it was the exact Bears one from the 1985 Super Bowl, but the Lombardi trophy nonetheless. Before we get into your picks, though, Johnny B, I meant to play this video that you shared with us in the stands. I always enjoy the shots you get in the stands because you do such a good job of capturing the moment. So here it is, the Chiefs-Browns game from last week. Johnny B taking it, relishing in the glory. There it is. Great seats indeed, Ghost Rider.
That was a really good feeling because last year, even though we had limited capacity, my seats were actually covered by a Ford banner. They covered up all of the seats in the first either 8 or 10 rows. And those seats right there are in row 7, section 127, where a lot of the famous touchdowns have been scored in Chiefs the last Mahomes history, including the run in the AFC Championship that got us going to get us to the Super Bowl. So that touchdown right there was right after we got them and stopped them and they dropped the punt, and then we got the ball back, and then we took the lead for good right there on that. So I was lucky enough to have the us take the lead in the fourth quarter right in front of our seats after not getting to sit in my seats last year. And then obviously we had the 78,000 plus in attendance, which was very good. And it was the best. It was
even Chubbs can't help but be happy for you, Johnny B. And that, coming from Chubbs, it takes a lot for him because he's very competitive. He's very passionate about just the Bears, but he loves you so much that he can't help but be happy.
I have to
that
give
you're
him a
doing
shout out because he did call his famous upset special and took the underdog Raiders. It was a home game for the Raiders as an underdog, and obviously I know he was sweating because that game was so weird and crazy at the end. But he did, with the grace of the gambling football gods, somehow the Raiders squeaked that one out, and he did get his 1-0 upset special.
He does get the upset specials. We got to give it to him. So, while Johnny B is going through his picks here, we're going to do our Johnny B for 3. The first one live here on Brags in the Stands for the 2021 NFL season. Chubbs, make sure you get your upset special. He's already pulling it in. And before we get to Johnny B's picks, he's got the Titans over the Seahawks this week as his upset special. Johnny B, would you consider that an upset? Because just like last week, he picks the home dog. Now he's picking the Titans over the Seahawks, and the Titans are a very good football team.
Well, the Titans looked horrible last week, so this is a pretty bold move. I think he's expecting a bounce back. Russell Wilson cost me $800 last year in a parlay. All he had to do was beat the Giants by 1, and he lost to the Giants at home. So Mr. Unlimited Russell Wilson, I'm still salty. So he's expecting the Titans to have a bounce back after a horrific showing week 1, but I'm not taking the Titans this week. I'm not going to make that bet, but who knows? Maybe I'll throw a couple shekels on it just because Chubbs might stay hot. Who knows?
Chubbs claims he picked the Giants in that game you're referring to because he always gets the upsets right, apparently. Chubbs is just such a smart guy, and that's why we're so lucky to have him, on our show sometimes and in our chats all the time, and we appreciate his loyalty to the show. So Ghost Rider says, bad beats are two-way streets. Someone always on the other side as well. A good rhyme scheme there, Ghost. That's what I say. I'm telling you, Johnny B, you and Ghost Rider would get along splendidly.
I mean, just the name, Ghost Rider. I mean, how could I not get along with him?
Yeah. His other nickname is Double R, but yeah, Ghost Rider, Double R. He's a great supporter of what I do here at Brags and Stands, and then, of course, what Trey Tunes does. And Trey Tunes is supposed to come on here tonight. He said, he's doing some things. He's fixing his computer for his sister. But I saw him in the chat earlier, so I thought he was going to come in here to the show because this is, it was going to be another time where me and Trey and Johnny B, of course, chop it up and do our thing here, as we always do, entertaining the masses. But Trey's, I guess, a little too busy right now, and that's okay. He's a busy man, as we all know. So, Johnny B, why don't we get into your Johnny B for 3 picks? I promise you, one of these days we're going to have an intro video to your segment, but it hasn't come yet. But I promise you, one day I'm going to make one.
Everybody knows I'm a grinder. I don't do anything fancy. I just win. That's all I do. Is I just
win. So,
win. That's it.
Well, you do just win, and you know what you're doing always. So, Johnny B, I'm gonna let you fire away as you always do in your world famous segment, Johnny B for 3.
All right, Johnny B for 3 here. Last year we had some pretty good numbers, adjusting to picking the games. We were doing the shows a little bit earlier in the week. And then the game day picks last year that I put out on Sunday mornings, we were at near 70%. That was outstanding. I'm going to do another one of those tomorrow. But this will be the official kickoff to Johnny B for 3 on the live show. I did a couple of picks last week. I didn't bet too much on the NFL. I never do week 1. I ended up going 3-2 overall for my own personal bets. But let's get into it. Brags in the Stands, Johnny B for 3, 2021 season. Let's kick it off with my number 1 pick of the week. You can call me a homer. You can call me whatever you want, but I'm going to take the Chiefs -3 on the road versus the Ravens. I'm going to buy that hook. It's at 3.5 on most sports books. I'm going to take that hook and take the Chiefs at -3 and pay a little extra juice. The Ravens are beat up. I mean, they're beat up all over the board. Their left tackle is going to be out. Their cornerbacks are beat up. We all know what happened in the preseason with the running backs. We saw sloppy football against the Raiders. I'm going to take Chiefs -3. Lamar's never beaten Mahomes head-to-head. I think that's an easy bet and an easy cash for my number one pick, Chiefs -3 on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Rolling in, I'm going to roll my second pick off that. I mean, I bet Mahomes over 2.5 touchdowns last week, so let's double down. Let's do it again. Patrick Mahomes plus 2.5 TD passes. 3 touchdown passes get you the money at a plus 105. I'm getting a plus on Patrick Mahomes with 3 touchdown passes. Are you serious? Let's take that all day long. And then I'm going to go a little parlay tease for number 3. I'm going to take the Rams at plus 1.5 points. They look pretty good. I know it was against the Bears and everything going on with that, as you guys saw, but I'm going to take them. I'm going to put them with the Browns. I thought the Browns played a solid game. I think they're a good football team. They got Garrett and Clowney causing havoc with the pass rush. Put them at -7, and you're going to get plus odds at plus 110 on that. Rams and Browns on the parlay tees, and those are your picks for the start this season off on Johnny B43.
We gotta love it here. And I know a lot of these people are going to be cashing these bets here this year, as we got some big gamblers in the chat, as we grow the following to this show, and they're going to be appreciating what you do here, helping people make money from their couch. You certainly do a good, I know you do good for yourself. So, you're giving back to the people, and that's what it's all about here at Brags in the Stands. So, Johnny B, what did you think of, you got Mahomes, your second pick, Mahomes plus 2.5 touchdowns over. What did you think of my fantasy football team name? I drafted Patrick Mahomes in our last second league, and I finally switched up from Chicken Salad Serve Cole, which was my name for about 3 years, since 2017. And now, I don't know if you took notice of what my new team name is. Did you, Johnny B?
I don't take any
my
whoever
new
shows,
team name.
Whoever shows up for me to play, I play him.
Well, I thought you'd appreciate it, and that's why I bring it up, because I have Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback. So my team name is Take Mahomes Country Road.
Oh, nice.
Take
nice.
Mahomes.
Did you know that the year that we won a Super Bowl, there was actually a famous song that was made of that? So did you steal it?
No, I didn't steal it. It just, it's
Take Me Home, Pat Mahomes.
Is that how it went?
Yeah, it's obviously the song.
I like the song Country Road.
Country
West
Road.
Virginia. That's the only part that doesn't make sense, because he's not from West Virginia.
So I'll send you a link to that video. But basically, somebody came out and put this video out, and it had footage of Mahomes and Big Red and the old Chiefs and everything like that, and it was basically all about Pat Mahomes taking us to the Super Bowl, and we went on and win the Super Bowl that year.
Well, I was sitting back trying to think, because I wanted to try to think of something that, my favorite team name I ever had was in a 2-quarterback league when I had Brady and Luck, and my name was Luck Be a Brady Tonight. And that was my favorite team name ever. But I thought I was being clever, but it's low hanging fruit to say Take Mahomes Country Road.
Well, your only problem tomorrow is that QB1, possibly all time, is going to be thrown to Tyreek Hill. And as we know, you didn't draft Tyreek Hill, and you let me get him. So every touchdown pass going to Tyreek Hill is going to be points for you and points for me.
I honestly, as I said on Twitter last week, deserve to be kicked directly in the nuts for taking Ezekiel Elliott at 9 over Tyreek Hill. I don't deserve to win the league, honestly, with a move like that. But at least I got Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback. We'll see how it goes. But for those of you that just missed it, if you just tuned in, got Chiefs. Go ahead, Johnny B. Ring them off the rapid fire.
-3. It's the line is most sports books. Obviously, it varies a little bit here and there depending on what sports book you're at, whether you're in Vegas as well. You go downtown where I hang out at Fremont Street, and you're going to always get a little bit better odds than if you go on the Strip where all the tourists go. So I bought the hook. The line is at 3.5, so I paid a little bit more juice to get it down to 3. Chiefs on the road. You never know. It's the first couple of weeks of the season, so sometimes that hook can pay off. And then we're going to my boy Patrick Mahomes over 2.5 touchdown passes. I don't know how I can't bet this if it's plus odds every week. I mean, I really don't know how I cannot bet this bet if it's at plus odds every week. And I think he's going to have 4+ touchdown passes. He ran one into, which that almost cost me last week since he decided to run it in instead of passing it. But he did get the 3 touchdown passes, 1 long one to Tyreek and 2 to Kelsey last week. And I'm going to say McCole Hardman's probably going to get a long one this week as well. And then the parlay tees, I love these. You take teams that should win and you juice them down. And I'm going to take the Rams at plus 1.5. Anytime I can get the Rams with that defense plus points, you got to take it. I'm going to put them with the Browns -7. I think they're a very good football team. They brought it. They got good intensity. The coaching staff looked good.
They did. They looked really good against you guys 2 years in a row.
And our defensive coach, Spags, made some good adjustments at halftime, and that was the difference in the game. So, and I think actually being at Arrowhead, it was a huge difference. The crowd was insane, and they were having trouble communicating there in the second half once the tides had turned.
So there they are.
I really like all these picks, to be honest. I'm expecting a big day for myself tomorrow.
There it is. The Johnny B for 3 picks. As Big Dollar Dave said, hit the sounder. I just win no matter what. If Trey Tunes was here, we could hit that. Although I'd be a little worried about a copyright strike if we do that. But Grant Sims, he is not in Vegas, but Johnny Vegas, or not Johnny Vegas, who is somebody that listens to ESPN 1000 shows, but Johnny B is always in Vegas inside his mind because he's always got money on his mind.
Vegas a lot. Obviously, it slowed down a little bit with all this pandemic or whatever, but I'll be heading back there soon. I'll be heading back there in both November and December this year.
I went to Vegas
for gambling and for tattoos, baby. So I'll be heading there real soon, just a couple months away.
I went to Vegas a couple weeks ago, and I will never go back again. It's too crazy for me. It was crazy.
Well, what did you do? You can't say?
Oh, I can say. It was just insane. It was too much. It's just too much of a circus. It's very expensive, so.
You got to win. If you win, it's not expensive.
I know. Well, I didn't have any luck with the slots or the roulette, and I didn't do enough sports.
Whoa, slots. You got to put a couple bets in and get a couple thousand in your hand, and then it's free.
Yeah, I should have done more sports betting, but I couldn't get in the groove. Everything's happening so fast. We're drinking, we're partying. It's all happened so fast, and then before you know it, it's time to go home, and you're, $2,000 burned a hole in your pocket. It's a lot. It's a lot to do, in so little time and so much money to spend. Grant Sims saying Fremont is way better than the Strip. I think Grant Sims is from Vegas, so you might have to look him up one day when you get out there.
Greg, the last 3 times I've gone to Vegas, I have not even attended the Strip. I did local stuff and down on Fremont Street, other local stuff. But they got the new Serica down there downtown too. And if you're a sports bettor, or you like to pool, or say you got a girl that you want to take with you, your wife or girlfriend, and they like to go to the pool, they got the sports book at the pool. And they have one of the biggest sports books in the world. Like, it is literally heaven on earth. I know Eric went there, I believe, for March Madness. He checked it out, our old neighbor. But, if you go to Serica and you love sports and go into the pool and just hang out, you may never go back to that Strip, Greg.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. As my friend who goes all the time, as he told me, and I believe him now after going, you can go 10 times and still have only experienced 10% of that town. I mean, it's insane. It's a circus out there. Maybe I'll go back, but it was a lot. It was a lot. But yeah, we appreciate your Johnny B for 3 picks. I know everybody else does in the chat. Before we start to wind down to the turn rounding third, as we use a baseball analogy to get to home on this show. I don't know if you got a chance to see this, Johnny B, but my first ever GIF. I have a GIF. I finally have a GIF, and there it was. Marcus D on Twitter, who does video captures. He caught this moment on TV and he captioned it. Greg refreshing his Twitter. And there's David Ross whispering, "Start Justin Fields" into my ear. Me and Nick Verha, the kid from Germany that I met in London, and now we've become good friends. You know, we had seats in the second level, but our guy Ryan Cox had second row seats, and so we sniped a couple right on the dugout. So we were literally right behind David Ross, right behind Frank Schwindel, Frank the Tank, as they're calling him now. It was really cool. I've never been that close to the dugout. I'm always bragging here, Mr. Herr. That's what we do here at Brags in the Stands. And I got to tell you, it was cool to see the Cubs lost in the fashion they have been lately, blowing leads. But it was cool to see Frank Schwindel, so I'll share this moment here with you. There it is, Frank Schwindel blasting a home run. He almost had a second one, but
are you really doing Cubs stuff on a football show?
Listen, me and Nick were at the game last night. This is Brags in the Stands, so we, highlight what we've done in the stands. We showed the Chiefs. You say it's a, football show. We showed the Chiefs, but we do all things that are in the stands. And Bill Herr saying he was just trying to give me a tagline with, "It's not bragging if you can back it up," and that's true. I do back it up. Chubbs is making fun of me saying I only retweeted myself being on TV 5 times last night, and I did. I was very excited about this. I've never had my own GIF, and now I have one. So
I think it adds to the allure that you're not in focus. It's blurry. Like Ross is like, if you can't, he's fully in like clear screen, and you're just kind of like blurred out a little bit.
Well, it's the TV telecast, so they're not going to put me in focus.
It adds to the, your first gift. Like, he's right there.
Yeah, I was right there. It was a lot of fun. It was cool to see, somebody, being able to make me a gift. I'm honored.
Did you really? I mean, I did see the gift several times last night. Did you really retweet yourself 5 times?
No, I just quote tweeted it, and then Marcus kept posting new variations of the gift. And when people interact with me, I retweet them. Even when Chubbs is tweeting dumb shit at me, I'll retweet that. So I retweet lots of stuff. I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to retweeting.
You're
it's
an
called
equal
engagement.
opportunity retweeter.
Yes, and this is a good one. Brags, if you can stand me. That's a good one. Because most people, you either love me or hate me. Most people can't stand me. I know Pat Black can attest to this. Let's go! Let's go! I'm gonna have to come around Pat Black. I know where his seats are. I might have to come say hi to one Pat Black here tomorrow on the lakefront.
Where are you sitting tomorrow so I can look for you?
Nick and I are sitting in the north end zone. So we're hoping all the action, just like you, Johnny B, all the action comes to us.
It was so funny. Like a lot of people were tripping out, like we were down a little bit. And Abby's like, she's like, "Why are you so calm?" I was like, "Because we got Pat Mahomes as the quarterback. That's why I'm so calm." And I said, "You know what? This is in the third quarter." She said, "What?" I said, "All the action when we make this glorious comeback is going to be right in front of us. Right here in the fourth quarter in front of these glorious seats." And what happened? See, what happened exactly like I said. You got to manifest it, baby.
Well, I like it. So let's manifest some final score predictions. I'll start out with you, Nick, and then I'll let you get back to some college football. It's been fun hanging out with you here. We've been grilling out. We were eating Drago Bobs today, watching Notre Dame take down Purdue. They didn't allow the drum in Notre Dame Stadium, and Purdue, got the brake speed off them. So our guy Eric owes me $20. But Nick, your final score prediction for the Bears versus the Bengals. I know you're really looking forward to it and trying to get your first ever win live in person in the stands. So what do you got here, Nick?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't believe it's coming tomorrow. So I'm going with 27 Bengals, 21 Bears. I feel like the wide receiver matchups are not good enough, and Nagy will stick with Dalton, so the offense will make a late couple of scores, but the game will be pretty much out of hand at halftime.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that from you because I know how hopeful we've been discussing this, and you are not in the boat of hoping for a loss.
Oh no, I'm definitely not. I want to see the win tomorrow, but when I make a prediction, I gotta be honest with what I think will happen. I will still be cheering for the Bears and rooting for them. And we have a saying in Germany which pretty much goes, "The hope dies last." And so until the clock hits zeros, I will still believe the Bears can somehow pull out the win. But if I have to predict the score, I gotta say it's not looking pretty.
Wow, the hope dies last. I like that. That's a good saying. So, all right. Well, that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I look forward to catching the game with you on the lakefront tomorrow afternoon. Bears Bengals. We'll cut you loose here, Nick, and then we'll wrap up this show, let you get back to some college football, and I'll come join you here in a minute. Thank you for hanging out, and thank you for coming on the show here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Was nice chatting with you too, Johnny B. And
nice to meet you, brother.
Yeah, and we'll have a fun time tomorrow at the game.
One day you're gonna have to come on a post-game show too, Nick. I don't know what time. Depending on what time it is where you're at, but you're in the States right now studying, so maybe you'll be able to do a post-game show here because you are very intellectual and you know the team well. And I'm just over here blabbering, so it helps when I have somebody that actually has knowledge like you and Samir and some of the other great guests we've had here on the show. So thanks again for bringing your insight, and we'll be hanging here tonight and tomorrow, my brother.
For sure.
All right, there he is, the true fan, Nick Verha, my guy, hanging out, doing our thing, grilling out. We're gonna be eating some dinner here in a minute, and doing our thing, but we're going to wrap this thing up, Johnny B.
What is your score prediction for tomorrow?
I got the Bears winning 24-21 on a game-winning field goal in overtime. Everything is symmetrical to what happened with Mike Glennon. This is exactly what happened with Mike Glennon. And it's exactly the same feelings I had when Mike Glennon was the starting quarterback. And I vehemently hated everything the Bears were doing. And I would have rather they just lost every game because I hated Mike Glennon so much. And they ended up winning week 2 against the Steelers in overtime. And it was a very dramatic game. And against, my will, I was at that game too. And yes, Chubbs, I ended up just rooting for them when they were doing well and making big plays. And Tariq Cohen almost had a walk-off touchdown. And I lost my mind, even if it was against my better judgment, because at the end of the day, I am a fan. But, there it is. Touchdown Penn State as that game keeps rolling along Penn State, Auburn. But I just feel it's going to be the same thing. Dalton's going to get his one win out of the 3 or 4 that he plays, and then they're going to get the brakes beat off him against the Browns. But for this game against the Bengals, matchups aside, using common sense aside, I believe it'll be the Andy Dalton game, avenging his former team and avenging a weeks-long drag show by the fans and the media.
Avenging the Bengals.
Yes, he's avenging the Bengals. And I've got the Bears winning 24-21. Game-winning field goal from Carlos Santos, as John Fox once called him. Yeah, he called him Carlos. But Cairo Santos, very good field goal kicker. So I have him winning the game on a walk-off game-winning field goal, which I love. So I'm going to be very conflicted tomorrow as a fan because I just want Justin Fields to start. So if that means Andy Dalton's got to throw 4 picks in the first half and then Justin Fields is the starter the second half on for the rest of the season, this guy's going to be happy. But I'll let it play out however it's going to play out, and Chubbs will call me a bad fan no matter what. So and he, if we win tomorrow, he'll still think Matt Nagy needs to be fired. Johnny B, what is your final score prediction for the Chicago Bears facing the Cincinnati Bengals?
I'm going to say 27-24 Bengals. However, it could easily go the other way with a similar score if the pass rush shows up like we talked about in the show. That's the biggest thing for me with the Bears is they got to get some pass rush. They got to get it with the 4 guys. Send a blitzer once in a while, but that helps the cornerbacks out. They do have some nice receivers, there's no doubt. They can make plays with the balls in their hands. They can get separation. So I'm feeling 27-24 Bengals. However, would not be surprised if it was 27-24 Bears on a walk-off, just like you said, if they did get a little pass rush, maybe get a turnover, pop a ball out on a fumble, peanut punch, etc., which is, it can turn the game. A close game like that, one little extra turnover there, one big play can change it around. But I think it's going to be a close game, no doubt.
Okay. It's definitely going to be close. It's the Bears. Just like Notre Dame, every game's close, no matter if they play a bad team or a good team. That's how it is with the Bears. And I have no doubt it'll come right down the wire. That's why I got the game going to overtime. But we shall see. Another thing I wanted to promote here real quick before we take off, Bernie's Book Bank, for the last 2 years. Last year, we did the first annual Walk as One Chicago with David Kaplan, my guy from ESPN 1000. And then, of course, Darren Utenek from Bernie's Book Bank. Last year we walked 29 freaking miles to raise damn near $100,000 to support underprivileged kids in the Chicagoland area. Kids that, at the time with COVID going on, they needed some Wi-Fi support, but they specialize in giving books and resources to underprivileged kids in the Chicagoland area to help get them the best education they can possibly get. So I'm once again going to be walking with Darren and David Kaplan here coming up on Thursday, just a few days away. Last year, it felt like I rode a horse to California after the walk was over. So I'm nervous because I got a wedding the next day to go to, and I got to be on my game because I'm standing up in it. And last year I could barely stand. But you can go to the Bernie's Book Bank, website. And, this is how you set, this is a little tutorial here on how you can support the walk or even sign up to it. Here's the tentative schedule for the walk schedule. Last year, we didn't do this walk route. This year, we're going to the United Center. We're going to Guaranteed Rate. We're going to Wintrust. We're going to Soldier Field, Wrigley Field, Loyola, and Northwestern University to end it. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all that plays out. And this is how you donate. You can donate different amounts. You can donate as minimum as $5, but as you can see, they have different tabs to understand what you're providing to these children to give them a better, better resources to help give them a better education. And so what I did, because there's a lot of contributors, last year, guys like Tom Ricketts and, big donors are coming in to try to get them to that $100,000 mark. Well, we're only doing as much as we can here at Braggs and Stands. And Bernie's Book Bank has been so gracious to us as someone that helps promote what we do here. So we wanted to try to give back. And I got to shout out my guys at the Collector's Cave because they provided me with 3 jerseys here to give away. So I'll play the video explaining it all. And this is how you can win some signed jerseys for the Walk as One Chicago charity. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Braggs from Braggs in the Stands, and I got a special announcement to make. A week from tomorrow, we are having the 2nd annual Walk as One Chicago with my guys Darren Utenek from Bernie's Book Bank and, of course, David Kaplan from ESPN 1000. Last year, they raised almost $100,000 to help provide books and resources for underprivileged kids in the Chicagoland area. That's what Bernie's Book Bank specializes in. So this year, we're trying to hit that $100,000 mark again. And, I'm trying to do everything I can to help. So what we're going to do is another jersey giveaway. But this time, we have 3 Hall of Fame jerseys, signed jerseys to give away. And I don't have them on me, but you're just going to have to trust me. We have the Jimbo Covert, recently inducted into the Hall of Fame, Mike Ditka, the coach, and then, of course, Dan Hampton, the Danimal. So 3 Hall of Fame Chicago Bears signed jerseys to give away, and I'm happy to give them away. And all you have to do is donate $5 to a minimum of $5 to the Bernie's Book Bank. I'll provide the link below, and you can donate 20, you can donate 10, you can donate 100. But if you donate 5, you're entered into this drawing. So really excited. We walked 29 miles last year. We'll see if I can make it again this year. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm really honored to be a part of this with Darren and David Kaplan. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you get involved. Make sure you help, because this is all about helping the kids in the Chicagoland area provide the resources they need to get a better education, and no better cause than what Bernie's Book Bank does. So make sure you donate, and always bear down. So there it is, in all its glory. Again, shout out to the Collector's Cave for providing the jerseys this season. Last year I was dipping into my own collection, but now we've been starting to do some stuff with Collector's Cave, done some live shows and helping them out with social media, and they're supporting so much of what we do here, and I'm really greatly appreciative of them bringing me on their team. I'm proud of some of the work we've been doing and some of the work we're going to be doing here down the road. So here's the Dan Hampton signed jersey if you want to win one. Johnny B and I did a live show with Dan Hampton at the Dan Hampton signing all the way out in Michigan. They're going to give one of those away. They got a Mike Ditka signed jersey and then a Jimbo Covert jersey that they added all to the pot. 3 jerseys, 3 Hall of Famers from your beloved Chicago Bears. All you have to do is enter $5 into the link below, and make sure you share your screenshot of you donating so I can enter you into the drawing, and you'll have a chance to win one of these jerseys. So that's what we're trying to do to help give back here for Bernie's Book Bank. That's about it. Johnny, you think I'm going to make it this year? I got to stretch this year. I didn't stretch last year. And then I got to ice up after it's over. I'm very paranoid.
Like I'm physical all day long, buddy. So if you don't make it, I'm going to be like, what?
Well, I made it. It's just then afterwards.
What I want to see is I want to see you make it. Then I want to see you do a big toast or something after. And then I want to see the video highlights of you on the dance floor the next day at the wedding. That's what I want to see.
Okay. All right.
All 3 of those things.
Well, we went to
mentality.
All right. I got to have that Johnny B mentality.
That's it. If you feel like you're beat, you're beat.
Yeah, I am. You're right. I gotta get more positive about this, because I am
saying, am I going to make it? Yeah, you're going to make it because it's for the kids.
Freaking out. I'm going to be a little more. Last year we walked through North Chicago, so boring towns, with really nice houses. But this year we're going to United Center, then Guaranteed Rate, then Wintrust, then Soldier Field, then Wrigley Field. So I'm certainly going to have a little added motivation because, this is Bragg's in the stands. So stopping at every major sports arena in the city is certainly added motivation there.
The sites, the arenas, that's everything that you're all about. So, just click it off like a step-by-step, stadium by stadium.
Yep.
Like a checklist.
That's right. And I've been to all of them that we're going to, but it'll be cool to do it in this way. And I'm sure they'll have the mascots there. And there's going to be more walkers. Like last year, it was just me and Cap and Darren. And then they had a guy, and I hate that I can't remember his name, but he was basically like the bouncer, make sure we didn't get mugged on our walk, and security detail. And he was a really nice guy. We'll see if he's joining us for the walk again. But there's 15 other walkers that are going to be with us. So it's going to be interesting to see who's all there. But yeah, I gotta get, I've been so busy with everything. I thought I was going to prep really hard for this. And, I'm just going into it raw again. These guys, they train for it, as they lead up. I haven't trained other than the small walks we go on with Addison. And you guys saw the video of Jenny carrying me on the cart. So, I'm not training all that well. I should be, but I'm not. I'm trying not to have the failure mentality, but I already kind of want the Bears to lose. So I guess I'm already got that failure mentality in my mind.
Did you pick them to win so they lose?
No, it's not the reverse psychology. It's almost the other way, because I feel like because I'm so conflicted, I feel like that's why they're going to win. If I was all balls, Bears are going to win, and like Chubbs is, then they'd lose. So I just feel like it's the football guys are always watching. That's how I feel about it. I can't help it. So
and then Then there was Greg.
So that wraps things up for tonight. We'll see what Justin Fields has in store. Will he score again? You going to put any shekels on anytime touchdown for Justin Fields, Johnny B?
No.
Well, you should, because he's going to have a red zone package, and I would not be surprised if he gets a whole series. I know Danny doesn't think he will. Danny Parkins, who came on earlier. I believe Justin Fields will get a whole series in the second quarter. That's my bold prediction for the Bears game.
To be honest with you, if it was over 10-1 or something, I might put $10 on it or $5 even. Nothing crazy, because unless something happens to Dalton, he's just not going to get a lot of reps. So with no reps, why would I make that bet? They put him in at the goal line, and he could have easily threw it. He could have easily got sacked. He ran it in. Remember, if he throws a touchdown pass there, it doesn't count as an anytime touchdown scorer. He has to run it in.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's
that.
why
So
you're the gambling expert here.
If he would have threw a touchdown pass, that's a touchdown pass. That's not he didn't score as a touchdown. He threw the pass. So in order for him to cash that bet, he has to physically run it in.
Okay.
And with limited reps, it's just, I don't know. Unless it's over 10-1, I don't think I'm making that bet.
All right, Johnny B. Well, let's get to your final shout outs. And you always do a great job of closing it out and, speaking from the heart and sending it off in your special Johnny B way, as you always do. So I'm going to let you take it away, and we're going to close this baby out.
All right, NFL season upon us. It's here, finally here, full capacity at all the stadiums, and it's exciting. And remember, it's the NFL, and then it's just everything else. And remember, money won is far sweeter than money earned. Woo!
There it is, the Ric Flair woo, as Johnny B always do. Gotta love it. Gotta love your passion. Appreciate you coming on here with me tonight. We're trying to shake off the cobwebs of getting into our routine. Chubbs is getting mad at me because he wants me to schedule the shows and announce it. And so everybody knows, because he's like, nobody knows when your shows are going to start. Well, we try to work around our schedules, but I'm going to do a better job of, being more clear about when our shows are going to be, so people know. Last year we were pretty consistent about doing our shows on Friday nights, but, we both have families, we both have jobs, so we try to work around our schedules and then also the schedules of our guests that we ask to come on. So it's very fluid, and it's never always on the same day, but we're going to try to be more consistent today, shaking off the cobwebs, going live for Brags in the Stands, NFL Week 2 preview, and we appreciate everyone joining us here today. It was a lot of fun. Really appreciate you guys. And Ghost Rider, you have a great weekend as well. We appreciate the kind words. And, good luck to everybody on their bets here. I want to give a shout-out once again to Al Fleischman for his intro. We played his song, great parody song of Justin Fields. Got to give a shout-out to Lukas Moore from the 3 a.m. Coney and Region Sports Network. He really brought it. Got to love, I've always admired his professionalism and look forward to doing more games side by side for Region Sports Network, calling some basketball games. And then, of course, got to shout out my guy, Danny Parkins from 670 The Score. Second time coming on. I asked him yesterday, and he said no problem, even on a Saturday when he's about to put his kid down. So really appreciate him doing that. And then, of course, got to shout out our guy, Jake. I don't know. We could sing him happy birthday, but he'd probably just be embarrassed. But we do got to, happy birthday to you, Jake. Thank you for all you do here.
All the professionalism, the shirts, the templates. Oh, my God.
He does it up, man. Yeah, you got the Fields Day shirt. He just busts out this out of nowhere, name Fields the starter, or we riot with the sweet bear head. He's got D'Lo Brown rocking the Fields Day shirt. Never in a million years did I think someone I looked up to and watched wrestle in the WWF circuit, and now he does things for Impact Wrestling. Never in a million years did I think someone like that would be supporting what we do here. My guy, Dave Snedeker, wearing the QB1 Fields hoodie. I don't even have a QB1 hoodie. I got to get one here soon because it's getting to be fall season. So those are some of the things you can get on the Brags in the Stands shirt store. They're all available here, as we mentioned earlier. So make sure you hop on the Teespring store and get your custom Bears apparel, or if you want to wear a Brags in the Stands shirt, we'd certainly be honored if you do. And look out for some new shirt announcements here coming up here real soon. So that wraps things up for tonight here on Brags in the Stands. For Johnny B, I'm Gregory Braggs Jr. And my final shout out goes to my lovely mother, Barb, who's been going through some stuff. She was in the hospital last week and she's still recovering, but she's the strongest woman I know. She puts up with me. So that won her that title long ago, getting my ass through high school. And she's all well and good now. She's out of the hospital, fully on the recovery trail, and got to end my show with giving the shout out and all the love to my mom. We'll be hanging out here real soon, and I love you, Mom, and I'm glad that you didn't have to get surgery, and I'm glad you're doing better. So shout out to everybody. Thanks for hanging out in the chat tonight. Appreciate you. Pat Black, I might come and find you tomorrow and give you a big hug because we appreciate you guys doing some things. Bill Herr, thank you for hanging out all day. Miss you, brother. And then, of course, Will's got to come into the chat, but nobody cares about Will. And I've always got to give my guy Chubbs a shout-out. Big Dollar Dave. All you guys get the shout-outs. So appreciate you guys, and that's right. Thanks for the shout-outs to my mom as I continue to ramble on and end this show. So I'm going to wrap it up with my favorite video that I have on here, and that's of me and my mom.
This is why I'm hot. 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 I'm hot.